Welcome to Warcraft Reloaded, a podcast brought to you by Mash Those Buttons, covering World of Warcraft Classic, TBC Classic, soon Wrath Classic, and their communities. I am Bobby, also known as Blazin' Bob, and today we're joined by Mel, aka Melarina. How you doing?
Hello, I'm good. I'm back. I was gone last week, right?
You were. Yep. Yeah, we had a lot of write-ins because Yip made a joke, an April Fool's joke about you quitting the podcast. And for a lot of people
Tried to kill me off. I leave one podcast and he tries to kill me off.
Well,
typical.
In this podcast, Yip has not showed up, so maybe
we're killing him off the episode.
Killing him off, you know. I sure hope not.
Yeah, he's kicked off the island.
Oh, but yeah, Yip can't make it. He's helping his mom again, and he's a
relacing
his
shoes
good boy.
And
yeah, he had to walk his cat, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But we are joined by friend of the show, and I think the second most guested show, Duranasaur, a guested guest. I don't know how you would say that, but you're the one that's been on the podcast the second most. Welcome to the show, Duran.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for allowing me to take second place. I know I'm in prestigious company, I think, with Melderon.
Definitely. Melderon's been the most, but he also joined as like a part-time, once a month member.
He's technically not a guest anymore.
Yeah, so maybe I'm the best guest.
I mean, that's actually kind of true now that I think about it. It's a good point. See, this is why we have him on the show so much, is because he makes good points, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, this is going to be, I don't know how long it's going to be. It's going to be interesting. First off,
I feel like your guesses are never correct, so I feel like you should just stop guessing. Like every time you say this is going to be a short podcast, it ends up being really long. Every time you say this is going to be a banger, we're like an hour and 15 minutes in, and we're like, okay, well, maybe it's not as much to talk about.
Okay, well, want to remind everybody that we stream live now on Twitch at twitch.tv/BlazinBob, BLAZZINBOB. We're going to get into the show. First off, I wanted to apologize because I don't think I came off this way, but I didn't have any listeners write in, but I had guildies tell me that I asked for free art recently on a podcast, and that was a no-no. And I want to clarify, if you're watching live, I'm using art that I paid for and asked the artists if they would make me something, and I would pay them for it. So I was just throwing out, if you want to send free art, you are more than welcome to. I was not saying you should or we expect it in the slightest. So I just wanted to clear that up, just in case I did offend anybody. Artists do great work and they deserve to be paid. So even if someone gave me something free, if I liked it and used it, I would give them something back for it. So just wanted to clear the air there. But we're going to get into a review that's actually going to spark a discussion on GDKPs. We're going to go over what we've been doing lately in WoW. A little slight raid progress, but Yip isn't here to do it masterfully, so we'll probably give it to you short and sweet. Then we're going to get Duranasaur to give us what's been going on with Season of Mastery Hardcore and Hardcore Elite, and he's also been raiding normally on Season of Mastery as well, so we're going to get some updates there. Then we're going to go on to the news. There's a couple things. Wrath of the Lich King stuff, and then some updates for Season of Mastery. Then at the end, we're going to talk a little bit more about Wrath, because that seems to be what everybody wants to talk about, so we're going to talk about it a bit. So with that being said, let's jump into the review. So the review is from Game Freak. It's a 5-star from iTunes. It's titled A+ WoW Classic Podcast. This is a fantastic podcast to listen at work. The guests brought on make the show interesting to listen to each week. Topics discussed and banter back and forth makes it entertaining to listen and makes you feel like you're in the room. Yip, as a fellow warrior tank, that has a bear tank as well. Bears are insane. I
But
have
are you also terrified of bears? Just asking, clarify here.
also making you feel like you're there in the room is the biggest compliment to me, because that's what I try to make the show like every week, and that's the goal that I set out to do. So thank you so much for that. But there's still more. I have something to add for a topic of next show. GDKPs feel like the new way to raid. I lead a main raid, Loot Council Loot, and also GDKPs. Feels like GDKPs are almost more engaging to do as you make passive gold by raiding. I reward tanks extra cuts, top performance cuts, and consume cuts as added bonus. Curious on your thoughts on how GDKPs might continue to grow in popularity and eventually be even more prominent in Wrath Classic. For the Horde, Game Freak, Grobulus, Warriors Still Biss. Thank you for the review, and let's talk about some GDKPs. Do you guys want to go first? You want me to give my opinions on it first, or what do you want to do?
I haven't done any in TBC. I did them in Classic, but I feel like in Classic, they're 40-man raids. Like, it was really hard to do anything other than a GDKP if you were going to get a group together outside of your main raid group, right? And so I feel like that's kind of the reason, in my opinion, that they became popular. I do think they're engaging. From what I've heard from people, it's interesting because we learned things from GDKPs, right? Like, some of our other raiders will go to GDKPs and come back and be like, hey, you could do this skip, or you can, do this,
Definitely.
or in my GDKP, we did this. But you also take the risk of, it being a slow raid, or not having the right people, or not having enough gold when you go in to
I mean,
get any loot.
I think that depends on the GDKP runner. Like, if you ever went to one of Grape's runs on Whitemane, you knew it was going to be smooth as butter, melted butter. It was just going to be easy as pie. He did his due diligence, making sure that all the carries were fully world buffed and everything else. It's a little different in TBC, but usually they do run pretty smooth, and sometimes more smooth than a guild run. That's just a fact.
Yeah, I did quite a few in the tail end of vanilla. I even ran a Nax GDKP, and I think the last one that we did was the night before TBC came out. We even did like a final one, because people, I think near the tail end, they were using them to try to build up a bank so that they had just like tons of extra gold going into TBC. And it's great for that. And I've been doing them since I came back to TBC to also try to catch up, because I realized like I needed gear, and I also needed money for consumables and stuff. And as someone who really enjoys raiding, I do think that it's probably the most fun way to make gold. Like, I could probably make just as much gold farming other things and like playing the auction house and doing that stuff, but I don't get as much joy out of doing those things.
It's
So I think
definitely more
that,
fun.
yeah, and I think for people that enjoy raiding, I know you guys enjoy raiding, and I know that, that's a big part of World of Warcraft, especially vanilla and TBC and Wrath when it comes out. Yeah, I think it's kind of the best way to make money, because you're doing something with other people that you probably enjoy doing. I know that there's like a lot of negativity that can come with it, because I think that it goes hand in hand with people buying gold.
Oh,
Right?
it's
Like,
definitely money laundering on top of it too. Yeah.
yeah. And so I know of people who have never bought gold, but they have tons and tons of gold. And it's because they play the game a lot, they farm a lot, they do GDKPs. But it's also pretty apparent when you do GDKPs and someone comes in on a fresh character and they are just throwing out thousands of gold. I guess the question is always like, I wonder if that's legitimate gold or if it's not. And there's no way of knowing, but at the same time, like, I feel like gold buying is pretty prevalent. So it feels like I've talked with people about like whether or not GDKPs would be the same thing they are now if gold buying or if like bots weren't a thing, if they crack down on gold buyers more. And I think they would still be there. I think maybe just like prices would go down because there would be less gold in the market. So, people just generally have less gold. But I think they would still be there because I think they do, at least like some of the GDKPs that I've done, they'll penalize people for making serious mistakes. Like if you make a mistake and you wipe the raid, you get penalized. And they'll do like what Game Freak was saying, where they'll give performance-based cuts. So if you do really well, you get extra gold. So it's just you're more incentivized, I feel, than in a normal pug to like play at a higher level. So yeah, exactly to your point, like some GDKPs, they run so smooth that you're like, man, this is like probably better than a lot of guilds do their like runs with people they've been playing with for months or years.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What do you think is better for the game though? Like I like the thought of GDKPs because I do think it allows people to do the content and make gold at the same time, but it also probably prevents some guilds from recruiting some people if they can get all of what they need in a GDKP every week. You know what I mean?
Well,
yeah.
Okay. Let me put in what I think GDKPs are good for, and then maybe we can jump into that a little better. So I think GDKPs are fantastic for alts, for main raiders that can do the older content each week and make gold to fund their newer content, progression or parsing or speed runs or whatever they want to do in their high-end guild. I think it's great for casuals that might not be able to get into something. Problem is, though, is the casuals, I don't know how they're getting that gold unless they really are just farming a bunch. But I do think it's good for them to have a chance to get in, or good for people that can't play constantly, or someone who lost their guild and doesn't want to look for another one just for the end of an expansion, things of that nature. Like they're already geared, but like they had a riff with someone in the guild and they moved. I think this is a good thing. Where I see the problem with GDKPs is, what are you working towards to get that gear? Like, I'm working towards higher parses. Some people are working towards speed runs. Some people are working towards different things. And how do you get those higher parses if a portion of your guild is buyers that are just not really doing a bunch to get, because you normally generally get higher parses the shorter fights are. So the better everybody is, the better chance at you parsing. And so I don't know what the means to the end is for GDKPs if that's all that's going on or all you're doing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's something that I've asked people before too, is just like, because I do them same thing that what you're just saying, right? I've been doing them on my main. I've been doing the tier 5 content as a GDKP. But we're still doing all the tier 6 content as a guild. As a guild, we stopped doing tier 5 raids because they're like, we don't really need that much gear out of them. And if anyone does need gear, you can go to a soft reserve run, you can go to a GDKP, and anyone that wants to just like make some extra gold, they can do GDKPs. But I view them as a way to make money and potentially gear up and all. And it sort of does feed in for my guild anyway, like prepping your character to be the best in the best place it can be if we do like want to push parses or push like speed running. But I don't know. There are people who like that's all they do. They only do GDKPs. There's people who run GDKP raids and that's all they do in WoW. Basically, they're just like putting together these GDKPs, running them every week, making tons of gold because they get extra cuts for running them. But it's like, for what purpose? And I don't really. That would be a good person to like interview and actually talk to about it.
It actually is interesting for me because I tuned in recently and I haven't listened to the entire conversation yet because it's a super long episode. This week came out from Josh Corbett and
North.
Yeah. And North, I agree with here and there, and I don't think he's everything that Josh thinks, but I do think he's an an intelligent character. He just turns people off because of the way he talks is basically what I think boils down to. But they had a great conversation about GDKPs and oh shoot, I forgot. I just totally lost my train of thought. You were talking here. Tell me what you were talking about.
About finding and interviewing someone who runs the
Okay.
GDKPs every week. Yeah.
So North made a point that is the same thing that I have heard. I have heard that it's really hard to buy gold at huge chunks. Like it sets off alarms, everything else, and like that's what I've heard. So how are you getting these people with like 100K to spend on an item? It almost feels like, well, his thought was possibly it was GDKP runners that are just basically behind the scenes giving them the gold and taking money. And if they're doing that, then it's a lucrative way to make money. And so I could see
Yeah.
why that's all they would do, because they're making money. They're not playing a game. Now, I'm not trying to accuse any GDKP runners of this. It's just, it was an interesting theory that I could see being the truth for a lot of cases. And so, yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Complex operation we got
Because
going
like,
on
how
here.
do you get that much gold? I mean, it's nuts.
Yeah.
What are the rules in GDKPs about, like, what if I go and I only have 100 gold?
I've seen people say that you have to submit a screenshot showing like your bags, like showing how much gold you have. I know of people that have gotten blacklisted because they say I'm a buyer, and they'll ask you like, okay, what are you going to bid on? What kind of gear, or what are you interested in?
If you put it in trade too, you can't fake the amount of gold you put in trade.
Yeah.
So you can put it in trade and then cancel to just show them that you have a certain amount of gold.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've known people who've gotten blacklisted because they go to these runs and they say they're a buyer, and then the gear that they say they would bid on drops, and they basically don't bid anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
how
kind
much
of.
do you have to have typically to like?
It depends on the scale of the GDKP. I was turned down week 1 multiple times for a ZA, telling him 5K. I was turned down multiple times.
What?
Yeah, on my rogue, multiple times.
Yeah. It seems like I'm on Faralina now, the like Horde mega server. And well, I guess Whitemane also has like a ton of Horde. But anyway, on Faralina, it seems like if you want to be considered like a buyer, like that's you want to get into raids as a buyer, you need to have minimum 10K gold.
And it probably gets cheaper the lower you go. Like if you're getting in a, Karazhan GDKP, they like it just kind of depends on that. Each of them have different minimum bids and things of that nature.
Yeah. Like I was saying, I do tier 5 GDKPs on my main hunter, and I have 5K gold, and I'm like a hybrid spec. Like I'm able to like, I perform pretty well. Like I think I'm playing a hunter, and I was like 3rd or 4th overall damage in the last one I did, but there was still an expectation that I come in, and I told them like what gear I was interested in, and a couple of those things dropped, and I bid them up to like 2,000 or 3,000 gold, but then other people just like went over me, which I was kind of thankful for, because I'm like, I don't really want to spend like more than half my gold on a tier 5 item.
Right.
But yeah, it's a weird thing, and like I don't know how it is on other servers, but Faralina, I think almost every single GDKP is run through a single Discord. And if you,
dude, I'm so jealous of that. I've heard of that, and if somebody knows the benediction GDKPs, please write into wcrpodcast@gmail.com and give me the links, because I would like to get in as a carry in some tier 5 content with the luck.
Yeah. And like, so to get back to like getting blacklisted, like if you get blacklisted, you get booted out of that Discord, and that Discord has all of the GDKPs. That's like where you go to find them. So it's like, it's sort of a community within like I think on each server, kind of, and it sounds like maybe not so much on Benediction, but a lot of servers I think have sort of like a GDKP community, and a lot of the people who run those raids, like they communicate. They'll say,
Right.
"Oh, hey, I have 30 signups for my raid on Wednesday night. You only have 20 on Thursday night. Do you want me to ask if some of them will like go to your raid?" And they work together and stuff like that. But that also means that they share information about people that are trying to skirt the system, I guess.
Yeah, I just guess like what maybe as somebody who just rarely has gold, I wonder how do you get to that
Yeah.
gold without running the
See,
GDKPs,
that's
right?
the
Like,
thing. Like, if I can get in some carries on my lock, then I'm going to make a bunch of gold depending on what drops in those different raids. You know what I'm
well, and I
saying?
guess that incentivizes people to bring their mains to maybe make enough gold off of a GDKP to send their ult who really needs gear but can't carry, right? Like maybe that's, but it's
Yeah.
not really a
It is
good,
a catch 22. You're right.
yeah. It's not really an entry level thing. Like somebody can't casually play and
Yep.
run GDKPs all the time because they don't have any gold. Like
Exactly.
nobody
Yeah.
casually playing has 10K gold hanging out in their bank.
Well, that's what we were
Yeah.
talking about, the new character that shows up, like that nobody knows. Are they an alt or are they a gold buyer?
Or- yeah. It's I totally, that's like what I ran into, Mel, like 100%. And like I did a bunch of soft reserve runs like my
Mhm.
first couple of weeks back to like just get tier pieces and stuff. Because I was like, I'm not geared enough to be a carry. I'm not even geared enough to be what's called like a hybrid, where like
Right.
you're kind of carrying, but you're also going to buy gear if it drops, type of thing. And like I had that thought where I was like, I feel like I'm not going to buy gold, but I have guildies that have been doing GDKPs since phase 1 of TBC. It's like, man, I feel like I just have to borrow 10K gold just
Just
so
to
that
get
I can
in.
put it in the trade window. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
maybe that's what I just need, a friend that can,
We
you
had
know,
we had a guildie in our guild. A executive did that back in vanilla. He asked to borrow gold just so he could show them that he had gold to get into to some GDKPs at the start.
yeah.
I don't
I
know
feel
that I
like
would have trusted exec with
I don't think anybody on the server trusted him, to be honest. I mean, he was ignored by so many people, it was unbelievable.
oh, one of those. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was our main tank too. Whew.
Oh, that's
It was
always
a rough
good too.
time. It was a rough time.
Yeah. Jeez. The
He
main
was
tanks out there asking for gold.
he was one of those at the very beginning strat run, all orbs on reserve. He was that
Oh.
guy. Yep.
Oh man. The thing that I hate most about TBC right now is that every pug dungeon group is, all blues and unneeded greens
I've
on
heard
reserve.
that. Yeah, I've heard about that. It's like,
It's
what?
disgusting. I hate it. Because I'm
so
like,
stupid.
Yeah, like
in
I
my
could see
mind,
reserve the nether for the tank. I mean,
Mhm.
type of deal.
Sure.
Yeah. In my mind, it's like, oh, I have a fresh, I leveled a shaman to 70, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to make a bunch of money just doing my dungeons to get like some prebis and get some other stuff. No, because everything's reserved all the time.
Well, and okay, so back, when we were getting, back in the day in Vanilla Classic, when we were getting boosted on our alts, it was free loot. You could work up
Mhm.
tailoring and enchanting right at the same
Dude, I
time that you got
remember
boosted.
doing Mora
Dude,
and like going around and finding all this loot. It was like
oh
the
yeah.
most fun. I mean, it
Yeah.
was the only fun part about it because the rest of the time you were just
Well,
standing at the entrance. But
Mel, do you realize now that all the strat boosts with these paladins that are like not even really geared that great are just like all loot on like no loot. Like you just don't get any loot whatsoever. They get
Yeah.
everything.
listen, I feel like
It's
the mages that were doing our Mora farms were like, I'm not gonna loot 3,000 bodies. You guys have fun. Like,
yeah.
I'm making plenty of money doing this in 10 minutes
Well, and
for
that was
everybody.
when there was like quite a bit of skill involved in mage
Right.
boosting. Like the Mordon run was pretty skillful, but from what I hear about the strat run, not so much. Like, you can't do
Oh,
the
man.
elites if you don't have gear, but from what I hear, it's
Like
not like easy mode. Or it is
like
easy mode.
I feel like Bob's coming in with a hot take. Like, if you're a paladin that boosts, you don't actually have any skill.
I'm just saying it doesn't take as much skill as the Moradon 220 mob pull, you know?
That might be, yeah. You're probably right. I don't know.
I've never done it, either one. I know that was just a really bad mage, so I wouldn't have been able to do that one. I mean, I had
Mm.
trouble with like 3 to 5 mobs, right?
Oh, dude,
Like somehow one of them always got loose, going a different direction, and I
yeah,
got my mage
Scarlet
to like
Monastery doable.
58 and just quit.
Like the ZF graveyard doable for me, but the Moradon run, no way, man. Like, just the pole is so long.
Oh yeah, it's crazy how they optimized it.
Yep. It was cool.
But yeah, but on the GDKPs, I think they're going to get more popular. I think they're going to continue in popularity, and I don't know that that's good for guilds, but I still think that top guilds are still going to want to do core rating and to do
Don't you think that
speed
it
runs and
allows
parsing and everything else.
Yeah, so I'm wondering here if there's like a positive spin we can put on this other than the fact that I have to have 10,000 gold to buy into it, so I don't know that I'm ever going to enjoy myself some GDKP runs, but I think you know how everybody complains about how WoW has become more casual and, made for the more like, you know, less barriers. You don't have to, have a guild of a bunch of people that you're always running all of these raids together with. You can, dungeon finder and things like that. Like all of these things that have been said or promoted to the more casual player. I think GDKP in a sense, right, except for the money, um, allows somebody to play a little bit more like that as opposed to having a guild that they consistently can run at the same time. They consistently have, some people's schedules just aren't the
Yeah.
same every week, right? Like some people work different hours, some people work, 3 nights on, 2 nights off, and that varies week to week, right? And so some people that's just not an option. They can't join a guild that raids 2 consistent nights, and I don't know what guild varies their raid nights every week. It'd be interesting. So maybe it is like a happy medium of like these people can come in and maybe they're with the guild for a little while and then their schedule changes and they can go keep up and maintain in GDKPs to be ready for the next expansion, without us having to reduce the, you know, difficulty or the quality or the things that are allowed by the community of people that want to continue to have guilds and do things together and, build up a community, but not require it, right? It's not required that you have guild mates and friends. If you want to be antisocial, you can go do GDKPs and farm gold. That's fine.
Like Scotty J, when he came on, he was like, well, if you're talking to me in a dungeon, you get a mute immediately. He cracked me up.
What?
That's what he said.
Scotty.
I was like, well, I'm like the rare guy that like tries to like chat up the people in the 5-mans. He was like,
Yeah.
well, you're getting, and I was like, but nobody ever talks back. He's like, well, yeah, mate, that's because you're getting muted immediately. I was like, probably so. Oh man.
Sometimes it's fun to banter in the GDKPs because it's also like, I mean, everyone's there for sort of the same reason. You're all playing the same game. Like, you have a lot in common. So you end up socializing with people outside of your guild a bit. And like, obviously, you're probably going to run into some bad apples, but I have had fun just like, because it's still just raiding at the end of the day. It's still just raiding, which means playing the game with a group of people and like trying to coordinate and stuff. And so I do like GDKPs. I do also know that it goes hand in hand with some negatives, but I think that they're going to stick around, and I think that the average person can get a lot of benefit from them, even if it's just like having fun.
It's just kind of hard starting out at this point for someone who's new. It's kind of hard starting out. That's where
go find a guild,
or just really like. Got to farm a ton and get gold. I mean,
I don't even
you
know.
can farm quite a bit of gold pretty fast. At the
10K
moment.
gold? No. Nope.
Well, I feel like
I mean,
I don't know
just
how
in the
much you
last
play.
week,
Though.
I've made 3K gold. I
I
mean,
play
doing like Skedis and different
Okay,
things. Like
listen,
I had
I'm
a
just
drop
really
that sold for
inefficient. I am
600
aware. I am
gold.
really inefficient. I am also really bad at selling things when I should sell them. I usually wait like 2 to 4 weeks before I get on and do something on the auction house. And like I haven't updated my TSM, and so it's showing me that something's going for like 600 gold, and I get to the auction house and it's like 120, and I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, I
But
mean, you can make, because there are quite a few drops. There are quite a few ways to make gold pretty fast. Dailies are actually, especially if you have multiple characters to do the dailies, they're short, sweet,
Yeah.
and give quite a bit of gold. You can, if you have multiple characters, you can continue questing, do quests extremely fast. You can get welfare epics and then be doing the old quests at an extremely fast rate with just like season 1 arena gear, weapons and all. It's what I've been doing on the rogue for the past 2 weeks, and I've been making gold hand over fist.
Yeah.
I will say I did the other day. I had to buy, what was it, shards or something for an enchant, and I was buying blues off the auction house, and Bob was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "These disenchant into shards, and there's 5 gold less than the shards are on the auction house."
Oh, I was like,
so when you
"Damn,
don't
Bill."
have much gold, you get very good at being frugal.
There you go.
I also just get all of my enchants and pots and flasks and things from Kim from the G Bank, so I don't really need gold. And really, the only reason I want gold is to gamble during off-raid
Well,
nights.
Mel, I feel like you just gave that tip to thousands of people on the internet.
Cut it. Just cut it.
Because, yeah, you told me that, and I was like, I didn't even think about looking for,
cheap blues.
yes, like
Come on, you also look
65
at, like,
to
the
70
lesser-
blues, and like they disenchant into a shard, and they were like literally 5 gold cheaper than the shards. And I was just like,
Yeah, they're just an extra step, and people don't like to do extra steps. They'd rather play the 5 extra gold for not having to disenchant, right? I mean, really, it's a laziness thing, and if you have the money, you're going to spend it. I just don't have money.
see, I just didn't think people. I guess I gave people too much credit. I figured they would know not to sell the blues and have it disenchanted by somebody, but I guess like I just gave people too much credit.
Well, listen, I will say I spent way too much time early on when I was doing all of my tailoring cooldowns, trying to figure out if buying 10 motes of shadow was going to be cheaper than buying a primal shadow on any given day. And finally, I was just like, screw it. I don't care.
That was a
I'm
big
just gonna
deal,
buy
though.
this.
Early on, like
It was because they varied so much.
Dude,
it was like one day
I made
motes
hundreds of
shadow
gold on
were
that.
like, one day motes of
Just
shadow were going to be
buying
like 10
'em.
gold,
Yeah.
and one day they were going to be 2 gold.
Well, and
it
you would
was gonna
just
be
buy the
opposite with the
motes,
primals.
turn them into primals, and just make 5 gold off each of them, off each 10 motes. And you're like, well, that was easy.
I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else? Any more thoughts on GDKPs? I think they're here to stay, and there's pros and cons to them.
Yeah. I think that also, like, they're probably going to continue to grow because I think even to this day, people have more characters and they continue to get more and more characters. And the more characters you have, the more characters you need getting gear, and also the more characters you can just like throw at raid lockouts.
Well,
So I think
and the more characters you can combine gold on, and the more characters, you know what I mean? So then it's not, if you have time to make, 6 characters, you probably have made a decent amount of gold that if you put it all on one character, you have enough to.
And if you're doing professions on those characters, cooldowns, just make passive gold, like.
Who does cooldowns anymore?
I do. Everybody does.
Not
Shadowcloth
everybody.
Dude, okay, so like we don't do all of the cloth cooldowns, but you do your cloth cooldown because it's so far always a profit on one of them, but then you're getting a second one for complete profit. So like, yeah, you're not doing the 5 gold profit on the 2 others that, you don't make 2 of, but the one that you make 2 of, you're making a 5 gold plus whatever that class sells for gold. So it's always a profit. Then on the gems, they're
I
always a
know it's a
profit
profit.
usually.
I
Like,
know. Basically, what this comes down to is I'm lazy.
yes.
I completely understand, and I blame Kim
All right.
because if I
He
didn't
softened
have
you up.
money, yeah.
Well,
But I love you for it, Kim.
What's everybody been doing lately in WoW? Who wants to start off? I'm gonna do Mel and then Duranasaur.
Oh, sure. What have I been doing? Ooh. I did raid
Mhm.
both nights. Look at
Both?
me, both nights. Yep. Actually, I raided Wednesday instead of Thursday, but I did 2 nights, so that's all. Other than that, I did not do anything. Yep. Oh, I sold some
Okay.
things on the auction house for the first time in a few months, like we talked about, but that is pretty much it. Yep.
How long ago was it that you and Bob hit 60? Wasn't that like last week in
No,
hardcore?
probably like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
It was 3 or 4 weeks?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe
Oh man.
let me look because you're muted, Bob.
It was the week that we did the podcast solo or duo.
I know,
the
that's
two
what
of
I was
us.
gonna look and see.
Because we did the digging on the same VOD. So it's on the same YouTube VOD as episode, I think it was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, the
Wow.
21st.
It's been a while.
It was 3 weeks. Well, 2 weeks ago from today.
Mel, you also
Nope, 3
went
weeks.
to an alt ZG run too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I did. Okay, you guys, this is funny actually. Thanks, Bob. See, I do much more than I remember. I went to the alt run. So in all of my main runs, we have not hit the timer for the bear. And I've really felt like I was failing at life and wildlife. And I was like, what is the deal? Why do people keep dying? What is happening? Am I sucking? Because let's be honest, 40-man raids, like you could kind of suck as a healer and nobody really knew. 25-man raids, not as much, but there was still some wiggle room, right? Where like you can kind of hide in the shadows, right? 10-mans are really hard to not pull your weight and get away with it, right? So I was
Especially
becoming
if you're
self-conscious.
two healing, yeah.
Yeah, right? And so I was looking at stuff and I was like, am I doing it right? Am I like what's happening here? And then I went on this alt run with all alts. I think I was the only main.
No, there was one main. I think was it Plussy? There was one main.
No. Pulsey was a different person.
Oh, you're
It was a
right.
pug.
No, I think it was all alts and 2 pugs.
Yeah, and me on my main.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh my god, the bear run easy peasy.
It
Like-
was, yeah, and we literally started the run out going, all right, so nobody's expecting this to be a bear run. Like, we're going to be happy if we get 3 chests, and that's where we're going in, right? Everybody's on the same page. And we told the pugs that too. Everybody was on the same page. And
we
then,
had this Ret Pally, though. Nobody ever has said this in the world, but this Ret Pally was killing it on damage from what I hear.
it was doing a good job. And we,
Weird.
It was crazy. We have a guild member, Skeet. I'm sure we've talked about him before on the show many times. He's also known as Wop Slime. Great name.
Don't say his other name.
But so, yeah, so he ran it, and he ran it like a pro. I mean, he was telling everybody
he was doing
exactly
it.
what to do. I mean, we were impressed. And yeah, we got
It's
the
because he was
bear.
on a druid, and apparently the druid's easy, according to Yep, so maybe that's why he was better.
The shade. The shade.
Maybe.
Well, just his knowledge of what we needed to do in the different situations was just, I mean, it was extraordinary. My hat goes off to him because it was a really good performance. And I was impressed, and yeah, it was a good time. It was the first run that my rogue got to go on. I got to show that I wasn't a total, you know, buzzkill. I'm still a rogue. You can't do as much, but
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. Because I raided you not so long ago, and you were trying to get into runs, I think, and like no one was taking your
No
rogue.
one, dude. I couldn't get anybody to take me on anything. It was so depressing.
I mean,
But
that's what you get for being a rogue. Like, let's be real.
but
Mm.
okay, well, well, I'll get
We gave
into
our
it.
first set of glaives to a rogue.
So did we.
But
Ah.
yeah, you give it to people that
I mean, you need like 1 or 2 in the guild, to keep it fun. But
everybody
come
needs
on,
kicks and distracts sometimes.
yeah,
Armor pen, rogues,
they have a purpose.
although
kind of.
slow and dangerous behind the wheel, they still serve a purpose.
Gibbs says they're the diversity hire.
Oh no.
Oh man, yeah. So, I mean, I guess I could go into what I've been doing if you want me to, or do you want to
You're just
go?
gonna skip Duranasaur?
Well, no,
You're just-
we're not going to skip anybody. It's just that you talk shit on my rogue, and I wanted to say something that I was proud
Yeah,
of.
what else has been going on? Because I know that you're crushing it on your warlock.
Well, yeah, by warlock, I'm actually almost across the board 97 and up parses. I got like 699 parses, like 598 parses now. Can't parse on Reliquary or on what's his name? The silly fight, Akama. I can't parse on that to
silly
save my
fight.
life. Reliquary, I think my highest is 90, and then Akama, my highest is like 70. I'm like,
Something a comma's weird.
it's so weird. But yeah,
Which one's a comma?
Akama's the one where we kill all the ads, and then he walks up, and fight ends in like 30 seconds total.
Okay.
It's probably so fast you've just never even noticed we're not
It
killing
kind of feels like
trash.
trash.
Yeah, it really feels like trash. But
The first part or the second part? Is it the Blinds or Horkamp? Are you talking about Hygel?
no, we're talking about BT.
Oh, it's in
BT.
BT?
Yeah, Hygel
Okay.
actually. Hygel, I think I would have parsed all 99s if I had the Nax trinket. But I just got my first 99 parse in Hygel, second boss, this last week, and the rest of them are 98 parses. And I can't seem to get that just one little oomph up. But yeah, the Warlock's been really good. We have a really good Warlock crew who's allowed me, because, Duranasaur, I don't know if you do this, but when I was really into Season of Mastery, I was like, I don't like the Warlock really. I'll just be Affy for the rest of the expansion. And I regretted that statement so much, because at that point, I was stuck Affy, but I geared up faster than everybody else. And so the locks have, offered me to like stay Destro until they get their gear and can parse the way that they want to. And so
gotcha. Yeah.
I've gotten to play Destro a lot when I shouldn't have got to play it at all. So I've gotten really lucky there and blessed. But yeah, that's going great. But on the rogue Mel was talking crap on, I went on the alt run, and I don't know if it was because of the alt run or not, but I tried my hardest. I worked hard, and our guild leader offered me to come as a alt fill to one of the 3 guild runs the next week. So I got to go on my alt. I couldn't roll on anything over a main raider, which is expected, but I got to go. And that felt good.
Yeah.
It felt like, like he saw me working hard at it and he gave me a shot. He probably won't give me a shot every week. He'll probably give other people shots, but I got a shot, which was really cool.
How did your damage compare during the real raid? You kind of skipped over that part.
Oh, well, it wasn't the best, but I was also when I went before, we had like 3 warriors in a 10-man group. So it really doesn't make sense to do the armor pen as the rogue, like when the warriors can get 5 sunders pretty much instantly, and it takes you quite a bit of time to get the other. But I came in as specifically an armor pen bot, and we only had one warrior, and so I didn't do as good a damage as I had done prior, but that's to be expected. I was there as a support class, and I was way under geared compared to the people that were going to be just pumping. So
Oh yeah.
I did my
Well, I think-
job, though. That's what's important.
Good job, Bob. Good job. I think one of the things with ZA, like I think the reason that our main raid group hadn't gotten the bear run is really just overconfidence, right? I think for the, pug alt run, we were all just like, just don't die. Take it slow and steady and just don't die.
Yep, it's a
And we
big
made it
deal.
there easy, right?
Yeah.
In our main run, we're like polling and we're like not thinking as much about like, oh, we might not be able to take this many or we don't have mana, we've been pulling too fast, right? Like, so I don't think it's a lack of skill in our other
Yeah.
raid.
Do you guys know Tiny Traveler? He's a YouTuber who plays Classic WoW on, I think it's a gnome mage, and he has at least on that character, he has RP walked the entire journey.
He comes in my chat quite often to give me updates, and he's great.
Sounds miserable.
He has RP walked every moment on that character, and I think it was like the second week or the second like reset of ZA, he came by my chat, and I think I was in a ZA run and we weren't gonna get the bear, and he's like, no hate, but I did this on my character, RP walking the whole way, and we got the bear. Like that's how little you have to push the pace. Like as long as you're steadily moving, you can get it done.
Yeah, and a lot.
All right,
like,
so
if people don't know,
next raid,
every
we're
person
RP walking.
every person
what
who
I-
dies takes 10 seconds off of the clock. So even if you don't wipe, if you have a lot of deaths, you're taking time off of the clock, throughout that too. So sometimes it's not even about going fast. It's just about, the tortoise
Not
beating
dying.
the hare. But
Yeah.
besides that, I've just been doing a lot of different daily stuff. I've been
Wait, I need to ask one more question about this RP walking thing
okay, go ahead.
real fast. Can he take 5 paths?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
thank
yeah.
God.
But so I asked him because I found him back in Vanilla Classic, so before TBC came out, and he had like full cleared Nax on an RP. He had like done the dance and stuff on Hygen and stuff in Nax. Like he'd full cleared Nax on this tune, and then when TBC started, I was talking to him and I was like, "What about like you have to mount up to go to any of the TK dungeons and stuff?" And he's like, "Oh, you can RP fly." Like you can move at RP walk speed on a flying mount.
What?
Yeah.
So he's just like, yeah, I'm still moving at the same pace. So he does
it's
have
the
a
same
mount.
as I'm pretty sure it's the same as a ground mount where you just walk slowly.
Yeah. So he's committed. I think he does take flight pads, obviously, like any other player
I don't
would.
think you could not take flight paths.
Yeah, but
I feel
anytime
like
that
it'd be
he's
3 hours later, I end up in winter spring, right? Like
Yeah, well, it's when we told chat that we were going to do our RP walk to Stormwind, and ding, we were in Western Plaguelands, and chat was like, "Are you RP walking all the way to Stormwind?" And I was like, "No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that, but we're going to do it from the start of Stormwind."
Oh yeah. I think because he has like obviously if you even think about like flying into Light's Hope Chapel and then RP walking to the entrance of Nax, like it takes a long, so like he's aware of it though, like he's in a guild that is aware of it too, but like he knows that he has to try to get to raid like an hour ahead of time because it's gonna take him a long time to get there. So he's a very cool dude. I think if you just like YouTube Tiny Traveler or Tiniest Traveler, you could probably find him.
I'll try.
He's on a PvE server, right?
Yeah, I'll try and stick it in the notes.
Actually, he might be on a PvP server.
Could you imagine? Okay, I'm just thinking about Nax on White Mane when we were Alliance and trying to get to Nax without dying. If I was in RP walk mode, it would have taken me a day and a half to get there.
Yeah, I think I remember asking him about like world PvP, and he said like, "Oh yeah." He said he'd be surprised how many people get beat by an RP walking mage in world PvP.
Yeah, because they just don't like think to like literally all you have to do is run away.
Yeah.
Ooh,
But I
good
would probably
question in
die from a
chat.
role play. Yep.
Marv Tastic, does he RP Ghostwalk? Can you RP Ghostwalk? I don't even know.
Yeah,
I
I don't know.
I assume I've never tried, but he would
I've
know.
never tried either. Yeah, it'd be a good thing to ask him. But
Yeah.
I'll try to have his information in the show notes for that, because that is definitely interesting and you guys can check him out. But besides that, yeah, just doing all kinds of stuff, preparing my rogue to be my achievement hunter. He's going to be my main in Wrath and my achievement hunter. So trying to get all the mounts, trying to get all the reps for all the different mounts. If anybody doesn't know, you can now go back and do all the low level quests all through Azeroth and get full rep. So it's actually quite a bit easier than doing the Runecloth turn-ins that you used to have to do to get the rep for all the different stuff. You can just go through all those starting areas and just clean up.
Nice.
So, yep, that's what I've been doing. What about you, Duranasaur?
Yeah. So I've jumped back into TBC. I think I stopped back in, I want to say like October. I was there from launch all the way till about October, and then I just wasn't having a lot of fun with it. So I stopped, and then we had, starting in November, we had the Road to Rag challenge, and that kind of consumed me. And then once that all the hardcore stuff started slowing down, I had this, it was more so that I wanted to get back to playing with the people from my guild from Classic, right? The people that I had played with for like 2 years, from the start of Classic all the way till like the start of TBC. Like
I get that.
I kind of miss them more than anything else. So I reached out to them and I asked if there was any chance they needed a hunter, and the guy who's in charge said, well, you know, you're in luck because we just had like a couple of our hunters say they can't raid anymore. So I jumped back in a couple weeks ago, and I've gotten pretty lucky gearing the hunter up, and I've been raiding with them, doing some GDKPs. I got a shaman to 70, and I've been doing enhancement shaman, totem twisting, shenanigans. I'm like just barely to the point where I feel like it's like a raiding character. Like there was a while there where it was like, oh man, if I ran a dungeon, a green could drop and it would be an upgrade, right?
Mhm.
So it's just now starting. Like today, I was like, do I need, like, what all upgrades do I have left? And I was like, man, I actually don't have very much of that comes out of dungeons anymore, which is very cool.
Nice.
Now, I
Do you like
remember jumping
Jimmy?
in when you first came back and you were like gonna go do SSC and TK, and you're like, what do I need to know about this? What do I need to know about that? You know, and we are like, it's a
Yeah.
lot easier now, but this is this and this.
Oh man, I had not done any of those raids. So, and then my first experience in tier 5 raids was in a soft reserve run. And they asked ahead of time, they're, you know, when you sign up for it, they're like, oh yeah, you've done these raids, right? And I was like, oh yeah, I've done these raids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like virtually on videos, I've watched them happen.
Yeah. Luckily, I mean, I think Bob was there. There were a few other people in my chat that were there before the raid and giving me tips. And then during the raid, they were giving me tips. So that worked out fine. And then same thing with like the tier 6 content. Like I jumped into a high jolt and BT, and I was just like, I don't know how any of these things work. And so chat was very helpful. My very first Terran Gorefiend kill, I was the first person to get the like debuff thing.
No.
That was scary.
I still
Listen,
haven't gotten it, dude. I
No,
still
the
haven't
worst
gotten it.
is I have done it every week and never got it. And then not this last week, but the week before I got it. And I was like, wait, what? Damn it. Like I prepared for multiple weeks in a row to like remind myself and have something up for like what I needed to do. Finally, I dropped my guard, right? And I get it. And I'm like, what happens? What do I do? I'm sorry.
Dude, I still
And I
haven't
probably won't get it
gotten
again
it.
for like 2 months.
And it gets the tension and scare before that fight starts gets worse each week. And I almost want to be like, oh, DC'd. I don't, it's like, it's so scary now because now
Yeah,
if
but
you mess it
now
up,
everybody knows.
it's all on farm. Like, I've got a 99 parse on him, you know, like, and am I going to be the guy that screws up because like I've never done it?
Yep.
Like, it's scarier every week. And I just pray that I don't have it ever.
Ever.
And that's where I'm at now. I was excited to get it the first few weeks because I was like, oh, I got this. I'm ready. But if
But I
you
think that's the
mess up
problem with
now,
those types of mechanics, though, right?
if you mess up now, it's like, what the
Like, we've
fuck,
been doing
Bob?
this for months. Like,
Yeah,
why do you
like,
not know what this
oh
is?
god,
Right?
it's
But
so
you don't
horrible.
practice it. Like, I have never done. I've never even
There's the
seen
Flash
it.
game.
Yeah, which
don't
I
know what
have.
that is.
Yeah, which I have done. Yeah, but like, it's
I
still
haven't.
doing it in practice, knowing that your bar is going to be in the right spot. I mean, I'm a warlock, so like at least I have that, and it's not like hidden or something like on a different character. But something's going to go wrong when it finally happens to me, and I just don't want it to happen at this point.
There's no reason to hide your pet bar. Like, your pet bar doesn't show up unless you have a pet active.
Yeah, but
people have weird UIs.
Dominoes and stuff, you might just turn it off just because you're like, oh, I don't need that, or something like that, or it's in a weird spot. You never put it in a proper spot to where you could actually see it correctly.
Fair.
Yeah. So that happened my first BT.
See, so you're the opposite of
Damn.
us. See, now you've done it, so now you know.
Well, I mean, it happened, and everyone, because I think I was with my guild, because I think what happened was they had someone like call out last second, and they were like, hey, do you want to come and experience BT? We know that you're not like geared or ready for it, but you'll get experience. And I was like, sure. And as soon as I got the debuff, everyone was on comms, and they're like, oh no. And I was like, I can do this. I can figure this out. And they're like, just take it slow. You'll be fine. And I barely got it done. Like, it was just, I feel like moments from disaster. And I like, because you die afterwards, right? Like at least, yeah. So then I died afterwards, and I was just sitting at my computer, just like breathing hard, like my heart was pounding. And they're like, no, you did fine. That's fine. Like, didn't wipe the raid or anything. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
I would have to see that on stream because you are Joe Cool, like Mr. Relax. Like
I'm sure he looked like nothing was bugging him.
Ubers, it was you and Sarth, hunters, on a 10-man Ubers, hardcore. You guys weren't even fully geared yet. And you had some shit go wrong with a pull, and then you and Sarth just calmly walked everybody out of the dungeon, and you were like, don't go that way, go this way with me. Like, and then you finally got out, and you were like, oh, but like, you kept your cool that entire time.
Yeah, it's, maybe it's, I don't know. I feel like
a coping mechanism.
Yeah,
as long as my voice stays calm, I stay calm.
Yeah, exactly. But then as soon as it's over, I just like everything just like sinks.
So that's why. Okay, so that's why as soon as you died, everything sunk. You're like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
God.
But yeah, so that's what I'm doing at TBC. I'm still raiding full time in Season of Mastery on a non-hardcore character. I actually play with an EU guild.
Let's actually move into just your update on just Season of Mastery in general. And we could do that along with what you've been doing in Season of Mastery.
Yeah. So I raid with it's a guild called Balance. It's on a PvE server on EU in Season of Mastery. And we've actually been doing a lot of AQ40 PTRing lately, which has been super fun, because they are throwing in like a bunch of changes to AQ40. So that's going to be a fun thing. And we can jump into more of that in a little bit, because I think there's like some blue post information on it.
Yep, that's in the news.
Yes. And then as far as like hardcore stuff, which I know a lot of people associate me with hardcore, with Season of Mastery, we are continuing to raid. We're actually going to go into Molten Core tomorrow. I don't know how many bosses we're going to do. That sort of depends on who shows up and how prepped we feel. But the goal is to try to, again, like just make these raids more consistent. We've been doing a ZG almost every single ZG reset, which I don't think that people necessarily know. Like, hey, Hardcore Elite, the hardcore community is still doing in-game content. Like, I don't think they've missed. I haven't been there for all the ZGs, but I don't think they've missed a single ZG lockout since it came out, and they've been full clearing.
And like what a lot of people maybe don't really understand or maybe forgot if they did play vanilla. MC Loot is not really all that good on the whole.
Mhm.
Like, even the priest gear has like spell damage or whatever, right?
Yeah.
For like the tier, and so it's like it's not the best. And ZG loot is actually really good, not just catch-up gear, but just really good gear. I mean, I think it's best for mages until you get to AQ. Like the
Yeah. The
Bloodvine
Bloodvine
set
set.
or
Yeah.
locks too.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of that. I think that there have also still been deaths because we did an attempt at Onyxia. I want to say like 3 weeks ago. We went in and finally it was the first hardcore attempt on Onyxia. We did kill her, but I think we had 4 people die, which is the
Oh.
most people that have died, I think, on any single boss across like all of hardcore rating, like the EU side, the NA side. It was it was kind of a bloodbath. And it was just a combination of like rough things happening, but even with that, there's still plans to try to get back in there because we need Onyxia scales if we ever want to attempt any of the Blackwing Lair bosses with like Shadow
Right.
Flame.
I kind of wish that hardcore had like a Mario mentality, like Super Mario Brothers, where you get 3 lives, or you could do like really cool things to get a bonus life, or something like that. Like where it was actually tracked in game, because that'd be impossible for the community to track and all that. But like,
Yeah.
I almost wish there was like you got an extra life every new tier that came out or something. I don't know, like just because
Yeah.
it freaks me out. It freaks me out just watching it. Like, I'm
Oh yeah, it's nerve wracking. I think I have a harder time watching it than playing because I think when I'm playing,
You
I
feel like
can
you have
convince
control.
myself. Yeah, I can convince myself to focus and like get the job done. But if I'm watching, like it stresses me out.
Hmm.
So, um,
Yeah, I mean,
but
did you hear how we hit 60? Did we ever tell you? Did Bob tell you?
the exact details, I don't think so.
I mean, I don't know if it was very exciting. All I know is that Bob made me grind until he was like 1,000 away from hitting level 60 so that he didn't RP walk to Stormwind on accident and then not hit 60 when he turned in his
Yeah,
quest.
that's the fear. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, look, I got it. I got it. No, I'm 32 XP away. Crap.
Yeah. I think that everyone who's ever hit 60 in hardcore, like that, as they're approaching the end, like that's their fear is like, oh, I'm going to plan out this thing and then I'm going to show up and do my final turn in and it's not going to ding. And you're just going to be like, I got to take a flight path somewhere.
I just
Right.
remember, was it Gusu that was like doing his RP walk and turned in, and it was like, oh, no, I did the math on that right. No, what? No, I should have dinged. I was like, I don't want that to happen to me.
Yeah.
And my first
Or I think
hardcore
just
60, I dinged
accidentally
on
hardcore-
accident.
Yeah, like just killing a mob and accidentally dinging and being
Oh,
like,
no, I was
that
just
anticlimactic.
I was turning in quests. I did the math wrong, and I was just going. I was like, bing. Oh, I hit
Oh.
60. Oh, okay, yay! Like,
Yeah.
it didn't feel as good. I don't know.
Yeah. Big congrats to both of you on that too, because
Thanks.
it's
fun.
still like an incredible challenge and feat. Like,
Oh, it was great. It was a great journey.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
loved it.
that you guys like the leveling portion is forever going to be like what makes hardcore what it is. So as much as I preach for people to like jump in and raid with us in hardcore late, like I totally understand that it's the like the 1 to 60 journey or the 1 to 70 if you're in TBC, like that's what hardcore is really all about. So the more
It was
people
so much
that
fun.
can give that a try, yeah, I think it's just a good time.
And if you don't have a partner named Bob who kills you, you probably, will do even better.
Well, I mean, Meldron said it best. Like, it takes a few deaths to like really understand and retrain your brain to like, oh, yeah.
Nothing's scarier though than being like 55, 56 and realizing like, okay, now if I die though, I'm going to be real pissed. Right? Like,
Yeah.
Especially when
before
the
that point,
quests
it's
are in
like-
the Eastern Plague Lands and you're like, okay,
Yeah, like
These
there's a
are
random
real.
elite running around, right? And you're
In,
just like,
Yeah.
in
ugh.
invisible elites, level 61 elites that do a knockdown, a slow, and a silence. Like,
I feel like you
Yeah.
learned that somehow.
oh, I saw other people die on F's
Oh
and
man,
chat.
the Fallen Heroes,
Yep.
right?
The ones
Oh, man.
that spawn when you get the blood off
Yep.
of the ground.
Oh.
Yeah, I have never lost. I think the highest level character I've lost was a level 47. And I cannot imagine losing a character in the like mid to high
Oh my
50s. I
God.
don't know what that would do to me.
But I feel like it gave me so much, like so much more anxiety. Like in the 40s, like I was like pretty like confident. I was like, all right, we got this, right? We get into the 50s and I'm like, okay, I gotta really focus up. We need to really figure this out. Bob's over there like pulling something, and I'm like, okay. Well, hold on. You're getting a little close to that other mob that's like 100 feet away.
Yeah, it got to the point where we're like, okay, once we get to a point in drinking, we're just gonna have to do something else.
Yeah.
But that was a great time to do professions, you know? Like,
Oh, yeah, there you go.
the duo. Here, we'll do some fishing now. That's why I got fishing the highest that I'd ever had it up, because I still wanted to play my hardcore character, but wasn't going to do anything dangerous. So
I feel like professions are also depressing when you lose your character, right? Like
Oh
you've
yeah.
spent all this time doing these professions, and then you like make a new character, and you're like, do I even do professions? Because what if I die? And then you get to a certain level, and you're like, well, God damn it, why don't I have professions worked up? Now I have to grind even more.
Yeah. Oh, I'm really bad with professions in hardcore because I like weigh it out in my mind. I'm like, okay, if this character has, 20 hours played, if I put 4 hours into professions, like that's a sixth of my time. Like that's way too much time for like if I die, it's like, oh my gosh, I like a sixth of
Right.
that
I
time
could have
was
died
just like,
4 hours earlier.
yeah.
And
So
I think it depends on the class you're playing. You know what I mean? Like, because on Rogue, I just felt so squishy without all the pots. You know, like that part was a little rough for me. But I feel like if you played a priest or a warlock or something, like maybe it wouldn't be as big of a deal. I don't know.
I think one of the scariest quests that we ended up doing, which was on my what was the quest guide thing that we used?
The rested XP.
Yeah. So it was on
And
my Rest
F
XP guide,
you,
but it wasn't
Winky,
on
it is an
Bob's.
awesome add-on, and you should use it.
It is great. But it was on
He
my
hates
Rested
it, though. He
XP
hates
guide.
guides.
oh yeah, he doesn't like guides.
Hey Scotty, thanks for the raid.
Hey, Scotty, thank you so much.
It was on my Rested XP guide, but it wasn't on Bob's, and it was in what's that place that you go to? You guys, I'm
The place you
really
go to.
bad
Give us
about
the.
What's the environment like?
fire, and there's like a little crater in the middle of it.
Oh, you're talking about
and there's a
Syrian
raid
Gorge.
there. Yeah.
Talking
I
about
think
Syrian Gorge.
Wow. Okay, Bob got that a lot faster than I was going to get that.
Well, it's because we kept
He's
getting
been married to me
scared
a long
of
time.
Well, you two
falling.
communicate.
Yeah, falling
Yeah, you
down
guys
in
have
there.
that. You've got the connection.
So many
understands my
fall deaths
nonsense.
in hardcore there, right?
Yeah. No.
There's a few, yeah.
So the scariest part though was, in the bottom when you go and there's like those elite mobs,
Oh,
and you
she's
have to like
talking
loot the
about
thing on the ground.
yeah, and
Oh.
so the druid guide didn't have you do that in hardcore,
Yeah.
but the priest guide did have you do that because you could fear, grab it, and then run.
Yep.
Right. Okay, so here's the thing though. Also, in the Valentine's Day event, I got a box that gave me love dummies, which are basically target dummies,
Oh, that's true.
which was huge, right? So I had like 10 of those. That was epic. So I go in there and I'm like, all right, let's do it. We got this. And I run in there and I fear. And then one of them like resisted the fear.
Oh
And
no.
so like I looted it, and then this other one's like right here, and I was like, ah! And so I put down my little love dummy, and we're running out, and they're just chasing us. We run, and it's like we had like mapped out this whole plan of where we were gonna run, but then we were like at the end of it, and they were still chasing us, and they wouldn't despawn. And I was like, oh. And then So we did it, and it was fine. It went fine. And then
We
Bob's
had
like,
to do
well,
it
I have to do it now too.
twice.
And I'm like,
Oh,
do you
no.
though? I don't know that that went well enough for us to do it again. And he's like, well, you're already higher than me in XP. You can't have another quest that I don't turn in, especially an elite one. And I was like,
And we were like, you got to risk it for the biscuit, you know.
Oh, geez. So you did it twice?
We did
We
it
did it
twice.
Oh, my goodness.
it was terrifying.
Oversteer Maltorius. That
Yeah.
guy scares me.
Yeah,
That's
he's
one of
killed
those
so
mobs.
many hardcores.
Oh, yeah.
And he roots. He roots. Like, that was another thing. Like, he rooted you. Or sheeped me, I think.
He sheeps, he mind lays, he does an MC. If there's more than one thing on his threat table, he'll MC one. Like,
I think he sheeped Bob, which was fine because I could dispel Bob, but I was also in like semi-panic mode. So I was like, oh yeah, I could dispel you. I think I know my keybind. And I'm like,
yikes. Oh
It's
my
fine.
goodness.
Yeah, okay, so okay, what else with hardcore elite and what you guys are doing?
I mean, at this point, it's continuing to raid. Just there's still new people hitting 60 like every week, trying to get them geared up, trying to get them into like the ZGs to get that gear. Because, like you said, a lot of that gear is even better than MC gear. And if we can do enough and grind enough of that gear out, then it makes going back into Molten Core easier. It makes trying Onyxia again easier, and then who knows? Like, we have until, my guess is November, because they said Season of Mastery would be 1 year long for us to attempt Blackwing Lair. And I think that for most hardcore players, they either want to like keep their character as a trophy, or they want to go down in a blaze of glory. And
right.
if we get enough people that are willing to go down in the blaze of glory, we're going to go for it. Like, we're going to go into Blackwing Lair one day and say, we're not leaving here until it's full cleared or we're dead. So I'm excited.
Hey.
Well, if you want naked fodder for the what's it called room, all the traps, you just have my
suppression room.
Yeah, you can have my rogue come in and just suppress a trap.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And you could pop,
that's
and then
Bob's
once you're passed, you could pop me back out. But I could just do that, I would have contributed to the road to Neff.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my god.
All right.
I'll give you whatever's in my bank. I'm really good at farming, remember?
Oh, and remind me, I have like 3 Black Lotus to give you. Like, I do have those.
Oh, I have
grabbed
1.
those throughout. And I'm in the guild, so I am allowed to trade it to you now. So remind me of that, because that can definitely help.
You're not in the guild? Are you not verified, Mel?
She is.
I don't know. Am I verified, Bob?
Yeah. One of the admins got with me a couple weeks ago and confirmed we were both verified.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
They didn't notice all of the things we did.
I mean, we did. It was pretty cool because we followed the rules to the T, and we did /played, and we were within 2 minutes of each other.
There you go.
Because we'd be like, all right, ready to log in? All right, going now.
Which was actually one of the most annoying things about the duo.
Yeah.
Was that I couldn't log in and do fishing.
I'd have
when
to
he was doing something else.
I'd have to AFK watching YouTube or something because she was finishing up professions and all that jazz.
And then he rushes me. He tried to rush me all the time. He's like, and then he'd rush me, and then he'd complain the next day. He'd be like, "So we just don't have any agility pots?" And I'm like, "No, we don't have any agility pots because somebody didn't want to wait 10 minutes after we were done."
Oh man, this is why I don't do duos very often. It's this stuff. But I don't know. If we get official hardcore servers, the mod team, the hardcore moderators have talked, and I think the consensus is we would just get rid of all of those rules. Like if we actually had a server where if you died, you were unable to resurrect in any way, or it just deleted your character, then we can get rid of all those rules, because so many of those rules were put in place to avoid getting help from non-hardcore players. So if you're on a server and everyone is forced to be hardcore, go nuts.
Because
do whatever.
Yeah, just to give an example for people, like a non-hardcore player could die multiple times to get you to a goal that you need. You know what I mean? Whereas
Yeah.
that's the problem. But if it's all hardcore, it's like I think PvP would be kind of neat in all hardcore because then you wouldn't have the griefers with multiple lives. If you wanted
Yeah.
to grief, you'd be taking a big chance. It would be rough
Unless
the
you're a rogue.
longer the server got aged, though. It would be really rough for people trying to
Yeah.
come in. But in that case, you could just put a 5-level gap where you can't attack people that are, more
No,
than 5 levels
this
under
sounds like
you.
a miserable idea. I think you cannot combine PvP and hardcore. You just need to get out of here with that idea.
Man, all right. Well, yep, hardcore is still going, and you can definitely follow Duranasaur to like see it going on. You're still the GM, right?
I've taken a step back, so
Have
I'm
you?
not the
Okay.
GM anymore. Yeah, I'm still participating. I still track everything that's going on. I still have like people come into my chat and ask me, "What's hardcore doing?" And I know what's going on. It was a lot of time
Oh
and effort
God,
every
yeah.
day,
Just
and
running a normal guild is a lot
yeah,
of time and too much effort, and can't imagine hardcore.
yeah. So I gave the reins over to Calamity, who is absolutely
Oh,
crushing it.
nice.
She's doing a fantastic job. And anyone who gets to 60 and gets to play with her, they should feel safe playing with her because she has typically been playing healers, and I don't know if there's necessarily any healer that I would rather be in a dungeon with than her. So
Nice. Okay, well,
You obviously have not run with Mel.
well, Mel, you got to do some level 60 content in hardcore.
Oh, I see.
Oh no.
all right, guys, let's move into the news. So first off in the news, more pretty much guarantees that Wrath of the Lich King is coming. It has shown up in the Classic Era update, which is a little weird and a little scary, but I think lots of things have showed up in the Classic Era servers. I think it's their base area that they start things. So I think that's why it's showing up there. I don't want to Scotty J's last video should have had creepy, eerie horror music in the background because it was a scary video that he pointed out that they could say, okay, well, this is the line in the sand. Wrath is going to be a season of mastery, and they could steal our, almost 2-year Wrath journey and turn it into a 1-year journey. And it's a scary thought that could happen. But either way, looks like Wrath's
I don't see
coming.
what benefits they would get from that. Like, I just don't.
At least not with the first go round.
Right.
Yeah, I don't get it either, but he made a good point that they could. Like, and they're going to have to do it at some point, probably. Like, I feel like Cataclysm would be a great time to do that because I'd much more be likely to try Cataclysm if it was on a year timeline than if it. But Wrath, don't take my Wrath, please.
Yeah,
I don't think they will.
But yeah, that's all
Hopefully
the news is that it's shown up, and we're probably going to get it. We are going to talk Wrath at the end, but it's not in the news. We're going to talk about it in discussion after we get over this next piece of news. So stay tuned for that. The next piece of news is the Season of Mastery patch 1.14.3 notes. Now, I'm going to let Duranasaur kind of run this segment because he knows way more than me, and I think it will be better. I think we'll be better for it because we've been trying to cover this Duranasaur for weeks. So I feel like it's part of the scene, but we just don't play it. And so it really is a bummer for us because we're like, we'll put it in the notes. You can read about it and we'll talk about some neat things we see in there. But you've been playing it. You've been playing PTR. So run it.
Yeah. Oh, man. So the PTR right now, its main focus is testing AQ40. And they're doing something different with AQ40 than they did with the previous raids. And the big thing is that instead of it just being a different version of AQ40 altogether, they're actually going to allow you to choose different difficulties. So you're going to be able to choose whether you want to do AQ40 as it was in Classic. And I think depending on your reputation with Brood of Nozdormu, you can increase the difficulty. So if you have someone who's friendly, you can up it one level of difficulty. If you have someone who's honored, you can go another one. Revered, another one. And I think that might be it. I think there's the baseline difficulty and then 3 harder difficulties. And we got to test it this past Tuesday. And we actually went in, we did the first harder difficulty. And that first one is, if you remember the Cthulhu fight, the little claw tentacles that would spawn during Cthulhu, it's essentially those spawn during all of the normal boss fights.
Oh,
and that's
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
and that's
fun.
what makes it harder. And we did Bug Trio on that difficulty, and we were like, all right, this is really easy. So then we sent someone up to turn the difficulty up, and I whispered them and I said, hey, why don't you just skip the second one and go straight to the hardest one? Like, let's just turn it up to 11 right away. And they whispered me back and they said, already ahead of you. So we went to Sartura, and basically, I think the second level of difficulty is you get the little claw tentacles and little eyes. So the eyes that spawn that do the mind flay ability on a random player, those also spawn during all the other boss fights. But we turned it up to the hardest difficulty, which meant we got little claws, little eyes, big claw tentacles, and then randomly Cthulhu will show up and do one eye beam on like a random person in the raid, and then will disappear again. So you're having to deal with the Cthulhu eye beams, and big claw tentacles, and little eye tentacles, and little claw tentacles on all the boss fights if you turn it up to that max difficulty. And
wow.
if you look at the patch notes, the main thing that they talk about is this the prophecy of chaos thing. And these shadowy orbs. And every time you kill one of the claws, whether it's the little claw, the little eye, or the big claw, it spawns these like little black orbs that are just floating around. And when we tested it on Tuesday, if you grabbed one of those, it increased your movement speed, your attack speed, and your casting speed. And it would stack up to 10 times. And as far as we could tell, there was like no negative side effects. So we, like, people were going nuts over these things. They were just
Did
like,
you give it to your tanks first, though?
I mean, it was basically like, because the tentacles spawn sort of randomly. So like as soon as they die, like anyone nearby would just like rush over and like try to soak up all these orbs. At the end of we were testing for like 2.5 hours. At like we were gonna pull Twin Imps again, and there was a server shutdown notification, and it was like it went from like they posted it and they said like server shut down in 15 minutes, and we were like, okay, we can do like 1 or 2 more pulls. And then within a minute, it was like server shut down in 5 minutes, and we were like, okay, let's pull fast. So we pulled fast and we wiped again because Twin Imps with all that stuff going on was just a nightmare.
I bet.
And then within like 10 minutes, the blue post came out that talked about, okay, so shadowy orbs now have a negative side effect. So you guys will have to go back in and figure out what those are. So next Tuesday, I think our plan is to go back in, turn it all the way up to 11 again, and then see, okay, so what do these shadowy orbs do now with the negative side effect? And all that, another thing that I didn't even really mention is that they're not letting anyone test Cthulhu on the PTR. And they said that in their first post about the PTR testing for AQ40. They were like, we're not going to allow anyone to test Cthulhu. We're never going to allow anyone to test Cthulhu. You guys could try it on release.
We covered that, but they said the final boss of AQ, which made me like think, is there a final boss past Cthulhu that they're adding in?
Oh.
But like they didn't word it Cthulhu. They worded it, no one will be testing the final boss. And so I was like, that verbiage is weird. So I thought possibly there was like another boss
Maybe they
past
were
it.
leaving it open to see if they got it finished, and maybe they didn't. And they were like, "Yeah, the final boss,
Maybe,
Cthulhu,
yeah.
duh."
I don't know, but it definitely wasn't like,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, it was something that like caught my eye just because maybe I'm not in it and it was thinking like outside the box, but it would be kind of crazy
Yeah.
for him to add a boss. But at the same time, you never know.
Yeah. And we haven't even, because we went in and tested everything without like added difficulties, and we cleared every boss, and we didn't even go to Cthulhu because we just assumed it wasn't there.
Oh, see, so you can't
So
even give us the insider
yeah,
info.
See, I
can't
was
even.
wondering, what if you beat Cthulhu and all of a sudden you're dropped into Yogg Saron's room or something, or like some
Yeah.
boss that they've had in retail at some point, you know, that like works with the storyline. I don't know the lore, so I wouldn't know what would work, but I just thought that was interesting, the wording that they had. So you definitely need to check Cthulhu next
Yes,
time.
I'll mention that when we go test next week.
It'd be like, oh,
So
but we have to
there
push through
is,
that trash to get to him, though.
Yeah, true.
because my thought with this always is, what do you get for doing it harder? I know people always say they want it harder, but if you don't get anything more for doing it harder, nobody's actually going to do it harder.
Yeah.
But they give you extra loot, right? It's not different loot, it's just extra.
Yeah, so that hasn't been added to the PTR yet. So that's like kind of a gray area still, because we killed a few of the bosses on like the hardest difficulty, and our assumption was going to be that like we should be getting like at least one extra piece of loot, and we weren't. But they, I think, mentioned that also in their first blue post, right? Like you will be rewarded for trying out the harder difficulties.
Yeah, I think it said each boss will now have a chance to drop additional loot, scaling upwards depending on which prophecy your raid has
Okay.
selected.
Yeah. So that is something that doesn't seem to be in the PTR right now, but yeah, our guild has already talked about it, and if it does happen where we do get more loot for doing the harder versions, like we're going to try to do the harder versions starting week 1, because we were able to kill like every boss at least like one harder difficulty, and we killed like 3 of them at the hardest difficulty. So
And if you get that much more loot, then you get that much more gear, and it's probably easier to do the other bosses at harder difficulty too. You know what I mean?
true.
That
Yeah.
brings
It just like snowballs. Yeah.
brings up another question I had that I'd forgotten. ZG.
Mhm.
So, have you tried any of the hard modes yet where you get the extra loot and then you can go back and kill those priests and still get their loot
Yes.
again? Okay, you have. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I think some people might know about this, but maybe not, because there wasn't really any incentive to do hard mode Hakar back in Classic, but you could
Yeah, there
do
wasn't.
it.
You
Like,
could do it for funsies, but
mhm.
got
Yeah.
literally nothing for it, and you lost loot because of it, so no one ever wanted to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So in Season of Mastery, they didn't actually buff ZG at all, but they did incentivize people for trying hard mode Hakar. And the way they incentivized it was that if you left up one of the 5 aspect priests, so one of the 5 priests that's like associated with an animal, when you killed Hakar, one item of loot from that priest's loot table would be added to Hakar's. And then after you killed Hakar, you could still go back and kill that priest for their normal loot.
And
So
we had done
yeah.
some of this before. We would skip 1 or 2 of the bosses because they didn't have anything people needed and just go ahead and kill Hakar in some of our groups. Like just but it was just out of we didn't want to go kill that boss, you know, type of deal.
Yeah. Yeah. So we I think someone found out that, because I've like we started like talking about like which bosses to skip. And ultimately it was like, well, there isn't that great a loot necessarily off of any of them.
Well, you got to skip
But
the mount bosses, right?
well, that's exactly what it was. Is like it was like, okay, we should skip Tiger Boss, because if we can get a tiger off a car, that's like huge. And so my question was, is this proven, right? Is that one of the items that can drop off a car if you skip Tiger? And I guess it has happened in Season of Mastery. Like there's proof of it. So we always skip Tiger Boss every single time. And there's
Have you ever gotten
sometimes
a mount?
no, we haven't seen it yet. Not off of Hakar or off of Tiger Boss. But then there's also, you can skip Panther Boss and you can get the 18 slot bag off of Hakar. So those are the two that I think most guilds end up skipping, just because the other loot isn't that big of a deal. But each of the 5, depending on which priest you skip, it adds a different mechanic to Hakar. So if you skip Tiger Boss, it means that Hakar enrages and you have to have hunters do like a trank shot rotation. And then there's other ones that include, like, I think there's like threat wipes, and there's I can't even remember all of them, but their whole thing with ZG, with Season of Mastery, was giving players a reason to at least attempt those hard modes, because, like what we're saying, most guilds didn't even do it in Classic because there's no reason to do it unless you just wanted to skip those bosses altogether.
Yep.
So that is not the way it is in TBC right now. Like,
Well,
if you go back and do ZG,
I haven't tried. I've only killed the mount bosses in TBC in ZG. We do it like after our first raid of the week, almost every week. We just run in there and try to get a mount. We've gotten a couple.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we have.
I was just curious.
That would be awesome if that change was just like Ninja added in and we didn't know, because we just go straight to Hakar, kill him, and then go kill the 2 mount bosses. But now you have me wondering. I wonder if anybody's tested
when you kill Hakar, does he have extra loot on him then?
Well, we haven't killed Hakar.
Oh, you haven't killed Hakar. Oh, gotcha.
In TBC, we just go in there and we do a 10-minute mount run and kill the 2 mount bosses. Like, it literally takes 10 minutes. Everybody runs there. If you pull a pack, you can kill the pack solo. Like, you kill the boss in literally like about 15 seconds, and then you see if the mount drops, and then you take off, you know?
Yeah.
But we haven't tried. That would be hilarious if that was Ninja added in and nobody knows about it because nobody does ZG and TBC.
Yeah. It's super easy to be like, they wouldn't do that. Like, they wouldn't make that kind of a weird change. But yeah, I feel like they've done weird stuff like that.
It's also one of those things on, like, maybe it was just like a press a button and it went live across everything, and they were just like, well, nobody would probably notice if we put
we
it
had
in
like
here,
20 people that came to the last one, though. I almost wish I'm going to try to talk people in to go into just go straight to Hakar. Then,
yeah, because you can go straight to Hakar, right? Like, you don't have to kill anything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That would be hilarious.
It's just going to be hard. He's just going to be, well, with a group of 2070s, I bet it'd be super easy.
Yeah, and lots of them geared, too. I mean, some of us come on our alts, but, like, because I just go on my alt because my alt's going to be my main, and I want as many mounts as I can on it. But most people come on their actual mains, which are, like, tier 6 geared, you know?
Yeah. Something to try.
Yeah.
You try it. Let me know.
Man, yeah, that'd be crazy if that was.
You tell us about Cthulhu, we'll tell you about ZG and
they're like, how
TBC.
long is it going to take the community? Or even better, listeners, you do it and you let us know.
Leave a review of the show. Let us know.
Right.
Oh, man, that's great. Well, anything else
First
to go over
for free,
on
free art? Now you're asking for free, runs. Like, come on, Bob.
Hey, man, the best things in life are free. All right.
I think that's about it. Yeah. No, because I think the other note here was that they changed Fankris, but they didn't actually say what. And that happened after we did our PTR rating this week. So that will be one that I'll have to check out next week when we test it.
Awesome. All right, well,
cool.
Let's move into discussion. So this week in discussion, Wowhead put out a article about everything that changes in Wrath, and I thought it'd be kind of neat to go over it. It's definitely not everything, because that would be a long list, but
we don't have time for that.
yeah, they have a list. I mean, we could go through the changes piece by piece, or we could pick out ones that we. Here, let's start with major quality of life changes. So Wrath of the Lich King ushers in life, quality of life changes such as achievements, equipment manager. Does it really put equipment manager in? Like the whole straight up item rack? I didn't remember that. Maybe it came late Wrath or something? Mount Collection tab definitely came later in Wrath. The Barbershop, I think, came at the start. Dual Talent Specialization came with Ulduar, but will probably be at the beginning. And Dungeon Finder came in patch 3.3, which all of these will probably be in the initial one. Does anybody know about... Let's talk about achievements first. And then... I don't think any of us know about equipment manager, but let's talk about achievements. Is anybody here besides me super excited for achievements?
No.
I have never played Wrath, so I'm not sure. It could be that I get into it and it just like it
Sucks
stirs
your life
something
away.
in
You've
me.
never played Wrath? Really?
I've never played Wrath. I didn't play original. I never played private server. It's my first experience with Wrath of the Lich King is going to be classic Wrath.
Dude, I think it is the just perfect place that WoW got where quality of life wasn't too much and it wasn't too little. I think it was just the perfect mix. Oh, I love Wrath. I can't wait for you to see Wrath. So, achievements, like you have an Xbox or a PlayStation, right?
Oh yeah, I'm
you
familiar
get
with
achievements.
yeah. It makes sense. Yeah.
So,
do you understand the concept, Duranasaur, of what we're talking
hey,
about?
You know what? Well, maybe
Okay.
listeners don't, so it's
That's fair.
worthwhile. But so there's achievements for all kinds of shit. Like you probably want your achievement hunter to be your main because there's a whole bunch of dungeon and raid achievements. But there's achievements for there's one for killing chickens, like in a certain amount of time in a certain area. There's one for
But is there
uncovering all
one
the
for
map.
having the pet chicken?
Yes. There's one for having pets. There's ones for having mounts. There's achievements across the board, and I had a blast with them back in the day. I do hope they are account wide. I hated the fact that you had to choose one person to be your achievement hunter, and then an achievement on any other character didn't feel all that great because it was a different character. But achievements as a whole, I really enjoyed.
I think that they're fine. I don't think they do anything negative for the game, really. I think they allow people to have goals to work towards that maybe gets people playing more. I just don't care about them because I don't want to spend the time doing
that's
some of them.
interesting that you say that because I'm curious if Duranasaur thinks he's going to be into him or thinks he's not. Because I remember when Wrath came out, I did not think I would be into it, but when you see that little noise come across and that thing pop up on your screen, it's almost like dinging a level, and it's addicting.
Yeah, I could see getting into it 100% because there's games. I feel like I've played games like that have had the achievement system built into the game, not even like the Xbox achievements, but just like games that had it built in, and I would veer off from whatever the main storyline was to like try to get these little extra things done, like that.
Okay, if it was a quest and it was like showing up in my quest log, like I'll farm little sheep all day long to get 7 wool cloth, right? If that's what I need for my quest. But if it's just like kill 800 sheep, I'm gonna be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I don't have to look at it all the time. Is basically
It might depend on, because I don't know how it was implemented, but if there's enough of them to like get the ball rolling, then I feel like the more time consuming ones, like they'll come near the tail end of it, right? You'll start with the easy quick ones, and then it'll be like, well, now that I'm like halfway through the achievements, I'm going to start trying the ones that are a little bit harder.
now
And then
I'm
as
invested. Damn it.
yeah, then you start like checking more boxes. Eventually it's like, well, now there's only like 20% of them left. And
Now
then
I just have to get every mount in the game, and that's the last thing I've got to do.
See, and I'm working on that now. But there's the insane achievement where you're getting the Blood Cell Buccaneers, and
Oh yeah.
I mean it's literally an insane achievement because you're getting all of those weird ones that literally would take you forever. It also includes the one that gets you the white saber or the frost saber mount. Actually, I don't know
Yeah.
if it does now I'm thinking about it because it was Alliance only. Maybe it doesn't
Isn't there
include that
one?
one.
I think I've heard about. There's one that's like it's associated with the Night Elves in Dire Maul, where the only way to get the rep is to like turn in Librams.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. I don't
And it's
remember
like
though.
Shindralar. Yeah, someone in chat saying
Yeah, yeah.
Shindralar. And it's like the reason why it's super annoying is because one, it's super slow. Like the amount of rep you get is really low. But two, the Librams are unique. So it's not like you can just like buy a bunch of them and then go do this. Like you can only have one on your character at a time. So you're having to like constantly do these like trips like back and forth to like get a Libram, come back, turn it in, go get another Libram, come back, turn it in. And it was just I remember like someone like I probably watched like a YouTube video or something on it, and it was like the most arduous achievement that has ever existed in World of Warcraft because it was like it took like dozens of hours to just like to get it done, and it was like super obscure. And if the like Librams didn't exist, they're like a low drop chance rate, so you'd have to just like hope that you could go farm them somehow.
Oh my god.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
You know there's some
I just read
guy
this
that's
one.
been like sending and returning Librams through the mail this entire time, keeping hundreds of them going just back and forth between two different accounts so they can get this day one.
That would be insane.
Yeah, that's commitment.
Yeah, I mean it's the insane achievement.
I'm looking at one of them that says will bandage a certain number of unique injured pets, and you can't overheal. Like what?
Dude, there's so many weird things. I remember the first time achievements came out, I was like, all right, well, it's time to finally uncover the entire map.
Oh my god.
Which does kind of suck because it was one of the things that I pointed out when you could buy the level 58 boost. You had the entire map uncovered and all the flight paths, and I was like, that sucks for achievements because you just skipped walking through the entirety of Azeroth when it was actually a pretty fun journey for me in the first place. Like it was really neat because there were these ones where you're like, where do I actually have to run to uncover this? I have ran through this entire dark area and it's still not uncovered, you know, and
it was fun.
Worst.
Does anybody else get really annoyed though when you're like right in the middle of this area that's not uncovered and you're just like, where do I need to go to get this uncovered? Like, why is it? And there's always some crazy amount of mobs on one side that you don't want to go to because it's going to be annoying. And really, does it matter if your map's uncovered there? No. But it's annoying when you open your map to not be able to see that part of the map.
But yeah, I'm excited to see what you actually think of them because it is an endorphin rush similar to leveling when you get these different achievements and you can link them, and it's pretty neat.
You can link them to people.
Well, and that was one of the bad things that came with with achievements.
Oh yeah,
people would ask you to link achievement if you wanted to go to a pug group. I don't think today's gaming age is going to like have that problem because it really was just there were a bunch of people just didn't know how to play the freaking game back in the day.
Yeah. Well, even like we talked about GDKPs earlier, they'll ask to see like your Warcraft logs.
Yep.
And that's not that different. So
they don't care about your achievements.
Even if even if they do ask for achievements, I don't think that that'll come as like, it won't feel as jaded because I think most people are used to it. If you're trying to pug, that people are just going to for some proof that you know what you're doing.
See, the way I got by it back in the day was I would just be like, hey, I'll link it to you on my main so you know that I know how this works. You know?
Yeah, there you go.
People were generally cool with that. That's why I think account wide would be nice, even if it just says what character and class you completed it on, or even just what class, like that would be completely fine too. But yeah, achievements is something I am really excited for. All right, chat, we're going to take a really quick break. And we're going to come right back in a second. Be back in about, 2 minutes? Sound good?
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
Thank you.
Bob doesn't want to be left alone with me. This is what I'm hearing.
Just gave me an excuse to get a refill. Mega Man, what's up in chat? Flinzy, what's up in chat? How are you guys doing? Oh man, so much is coming. I can't wait for Wrath. I'm still excited about TBEC though. I'm still enjoying TBC, but I am excited about Wrath. Yeah, well, I mean, and not just that, but I mean, like gear validation, like gear score messed that up pretty bad. You know what I mean? Like it was like gear score add-on was pretty bad because there were a lot of BIS gear that was not item level high. So you had people that were just like tricking it, but we'll get into that. We'll commence the podcast right back here. Mel, you ready?
That might be a no.
Yes, I'm coming.
All right.
What is that ginormous thing? Is that a drink? Oh, it's a water bottle. I thought it was like a can of something. And I was like, whoa, that is huge.
What was that?
I thought it was like a monster type of drink or something. Yeah. I was like, oh, God.
Loco.
No wonder
Just chugging locos.
All right. This is just for me. All right. Well, next, let's talk about Equipment Manager. I assume you guys don't know what it is. I assume that it's just basically World of Warcraft built-in item rack to the game, because I kind of remember it being built in and having different.
Yeah, somebody in chat
sets.
said it was basically just different gear sets that you could set.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an add-on that does it, so I feel like people.
Yeah, it was just.
It'll be funny to me to see if people use the add-on still, or if they switch to the WoW one, because people are so used to item rack. But item rack does mess up sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And what I don't like about item rack, I like that it queues your gear when you change it like mid-fight. But I don't like that I can't switch weapons mid-fight. It still queues those when you can switch them mid-fight. It's allowed in the game, and might be a setting I could just change. I don't know.
No, because I think item rack just doesn't change weapons. Like it just doesn't have that capability. You have to use macros and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point now where I have macros that change, especially with the rogue. I've got 3 different Shiv macros that change different weapons into my offhand, my warrior. If I switch to battle or berserker stance, it switches to my stun herald, and then if I go to defense, it switches to my.
But I do not play a class that requires me to
switch
my weapons based on my move. That sounds like hell.
Yeah, it's a lot. But okay, so yeah, that's probably what that is. We don't know for sure. But the mount collection tab didn't come till later. And I do hope it comes early, because this is a big deal when collecting mounts. The amount of mounts
kind of
you're
like
going
the
to collect.
Keyring quality of life change, right? Where it was like,
for mounts.
Oh, I don't have to keep 7 bag spots to have keys. Now I can.
It'll allow
have them in my ring.
Like it'll allow you to have your mounts just like in a tab with your character, kind of like where your character's there, your reputation, mounts is like right there. And it's pretty neat because you can set up a macro to when you hit your macro to mount. Like right now, I have a macro that mounts me. If I'm in flying area, it mounts the flying mount, and if I'm not, it mounts the regular mount. Well, in Wrath, you could set it up to mount random mounts. So if you have a ton of mounts, it just mounts you on a random mount every time you mount. And small thing, but it's really cool if you have like 90 mounts. Like, it's pretty neat.
Can we just talk about something really fast? So we've got a key ring, and now we have a mount, ring, basically, or tab. Why
Stable.
is your Hearthstone still an item in your bag? Why is it not in your spellbook? I don't understand why I need to keep this little item in my bag that just takes up a bag spot that has no other use than for me to press it like I do a spell, and it takes me somewhere else.
I mean, these are the things that we ask ourselves at night when going to bed.
I'm with
As you can
Mel.
tell, I struggle with bag space as well. Bag space and money.
Do you not have? Well, I guess you don't have money, so you probably don't have gigantiques.
No,
dude, I have money,
not.
and I don't even have those because I just can't bring myself to spend 1,200 gold. I'm like, that's 1/4 of a epic flying mountain. I have 3 of those, and
okay, but your Hearthstone is a spell.
Yeah,
make it a
fair.
spell.
Yeah, I get that. And then the barbershop comes, which I guess is cool. I mean, I don't know.
It's cool if you got a really bad haircut when you made your character and you haven't been able to change it.
I guess if you have one that creeps through helmets and stuff, it could be annoying, I guess.
You guys, how many people are going to come to the first raid with a different hairstyle? It was already bad enough when we transferred servers, and now everybody has a different name.
I don't even notice what
I'm trying to
people
figure
look
out
like in game.
Trying to figure out who people are again.
Yeah,
and
names
people still
are big.
Call them by their same name that they were before, but they're a different name in game, and it's very confusing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. This seems like a small thing to me, but dual talent specialization. Now, you've never played Wrath, Duranasaur, so what do you think of this? Because I truly believe it should have been in Vanilla Classic from the start. I believe it should have been in Vanilla from the start. I think it was the single best quality of life change in the history of World of Warcraft.
I'm kind of torn on it. I do think that if they had put it in Classic, it would have been pretty well liked, just because very few classes have a reason to be like one spec all the time, whether it's for raiding or for PvP or for just like, open world stuff. I don't know very many classes where it's just like one exact talent spec covers the whole board. So I think that if it was in like Classic when it came out, my first gut instinct would be like, well, no, because like talent respec costs helps with like the economy and stuff. But knowing what I know now, it's like that's not gonna matter.
Yeah,
listen, you got 10K gold to go into the GDKP. I don't know that you're 40 gold respec.
Well, and people that didn't have the gold just didn't respec, and therefore, I think PvP servers would have been much healthier, because I've talked about this before, but I don't know if I've told you, Duranasaur. When I played back in original vanilla on PvP servers, the highest guilds still had, like, the majority of players were a cross hybrid PvE PvP spec. So you were like, anybody who rolled on a PvP server was basically there raiding to facilitate them PvPing more. And like that was a total thing. And so, but then going into, Classic, everybody's min maxing, and then lots of classes, some classes could get away with kind of a hybrid thing, but like a warrior couldn't. Maybe horde side you could, because you could be like arms slam spec and be like okay-ish in PvP, but a fury warrior straight up was just a rogue without any CC, you know, and
Lockdown. Yeah.
yeah, and so like I think it would have made PvP servers way more fun and just healthy. Because even me, who loves to PvP, I would run to dungeons, put on a shield, and just let him kill me. Then come back, put it, run a little bit further, let him kill me. Like I wouldn't even engage. Whereas if I was able to switch between the two specs, I would have, and it would have been a good
Yeah.
time.
And I think there's a balance there, right? Because I think the min-maxing isn't going to go away, right? Just because we have dual spec. I think the min-maxing is at a different level than it was back when we played before. And so I do think there was a chance where it would be you for raid nights, you still come with your, I would come with my holy and my discipline spec on my priest, right? And my discipline spec would be a PvP or a PvE discipline spec. Or the mages would come fire and frost, right?
Well,
And for different bosses, you'd have to spec something different. And so I do think that there was still a way to min-max that, even if it was just changing a couple talent points in one tree for a specific boss that would make it easier. Like there would be those things. And so I think you'd still respec, right? Because I think you'd have your PvP spec throughout the week when you weren't raiding, but I think when you were raiding, you'd change that PvP spec back to your secondary
I
raid spec.
remember. So our two main tanks that we had in vanilla, I remember the guild would pay for them to respec over the weekends, because we raided 5 days a week back then, because we were a progression, like getting server seconds and stuff like that. So over the weekend, the guild would pay for the tanks to respec, because they were the only ones that had to be perfectly spec'd. Like, and this was before Fury tanks, and we did used to wait for 3 sunders before attacking, and rogues used to faint every cooldown. Like, it was a thing. But yeah, so I'm interested, Duran, to see how much you like dual spec. I think you're gonna freaking love it.
Yeah, I think that's a big reason why, or maybe not a big reason, but that contributed to me, I think, not getting into arenas as much at the start of TBC, was knowing that like that's just a lot of gold to throw at something that I didn't even know how much I would enjoy.
Well, and then like at the start of TBC, I thought, oh, okay, I'll make a second, like my warrior this time around will be just my PvP character. Come to find out, there's items that you really need from raid to be able to properly PvP correctly, right? So
I think that's where I was at with
sorry,
my
I cut
druid,
you off,
right?
Duranasaur.
Oh no, you're good. Yeah, I agree.
No, but you were saying that's why you I'm not going to cut you off again. You go ahead about like at the start of TBC, like how you felt.
Oh, I mean, I think that, and this probably applies for Classic as well. There's probably a lot of people who would try either PvPing more or doing more raiding, like whichever discipline they are not a big fan of. They would try the other one, or they'd be more likely to try it if there was dual spec. Like I think I would have been more likely to do arenas and to PvP more if I didn't have this feeling or know that like, well, I'm just like not the right spec. So it's not going to be as fun. I'm not going to do as well. And if that was an easy, just like, oh, dual spec, easy swap, then at least I may not like love it, but I would have given it a better shake than what I did.
Yeah. Well, and I think, my argument earlier is that I think we would have had 2 PvE specs for a lot of things. And I think that might have been true, but I also think it depends on your guild, right? Where I think our guild probably would have been like, nah, maybe there's a couple people that need to do it and we'll pay for their respec for raid night, right? But there was a lot of things that the really hardcore sweaty raiders were doing that we were just like, yeah, no.
And that's what
we're not going to do that.
That's what they enjoy the most. So let them have 2 PvE specs. Like I know people make the excuse that, oh, you can switch up the amount of healers and DPS you have and tanks on certain fights. And I get
but
that.
Sometimes that's needed.
It's fine.
You could also switch out players and have more tanks or more healers on certain fights, right?
And
I think that's appropriate to just allow somebody to switch their spec rather than sitting somebody and making somebody else come in for just one boss, right? Where you can switch specs and say, we only need one tank for this fight, so go DPS. And now a druid isn't the only one that's really good at going DPS when you only need one tank.
Yeah, that would make warrior a lot more warrior tanks a lot more
Versatile.
yeah, during TBC. Like, it isn't fair that druids are able to do good DPS and tank at the top level in the same spec. It's just, like, so, and like, there would be things where different guilds, like the sweaty ones that wanted to help progression at the start of a phase, would do 2 PvE specs, and then they would swap back to their PvP and PvE spec when you've got it on farm, and these types of things I think are a good thing.
Okay, I do have a question though. Do you know this, Bob? If I say right now I had dual spec, if I went to my discipline spec and buffed everybody with divine
Does
spirit
not work.
and then switched back to my
Takes it
holy
away.
spec,
Yep, takes it away.
I was just making sure.
Yep, definitely
That
takes
would
it
be
away.
Makes
annoying.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad it takes it away. I would not want it to stay.
And I'm not even sure, I can't remember, but I don't think that you can change your spec within an instance. You actually have to walk out. I could
I
be
think there
wrong
was
on
just-
Oh,
that.
interesting.
I think there was a cooldown on it. I think you
I can't
couldn't
remember
change
if-
and then change and then change and
I
then
don't
change.
think there was a cooldown. I think I remember having to walk out of the instance because I forgot to switch to PvE before zoning in. I could be wrong though. I really can't remember. That'd be a good question for Scotty J. I'm sure he knows that. 'Cause I just haven't played Wrath since Wrath was actually out legit, so I just don't remember. But it was fairly easy to switch, and it switches your glyphs, it switches your action bars, like anything you had set on
Oh.
one. Yeah, which is the
Yeah.
biggest pain in the ass of respecking, which there is,
Relearning spells for some
add-ons.
odd
yeah,
reason.
there is add-ons that do it, but like Gear Equipper does it, but it's still a pain in the butt. Like, so, but yeah, I think it's going to be cool. I think I'll be interested to see what you think about it after you have it, Duranasaur. Did you want anything? Did you want to follow up on anything else before we move on?
No. This stuff is like, because it's all just new stuff for me. So I think for a lot of it, it's going to be, especially like the quality of life changes, it'll be a new experience.
It'll be neat. So the last one here, these quality of lives, is Dungeon Finder, which didn't come around till 3.3, till the Trial of the Crusader raid after Ulduar, but it's probably going to come in at the start. And I've had listeners reach out to me because I talk shit on it all of the time. They've come out to me to be positive about it, and I am positive about it. I just want Scotty J's idea to go through, and I want that to be that it tries to group you on your server first for a certain amount of time, and then if it can't get that, it can go across the other servers, because I still believe you can find good raiders in dungeons on your server, and when you're cross-realm, there's no chance to recruit that person without having to pay $25 to move. And I think there's no way to hold someone accountable, yada, yada, yada. There's a whole list of changes I've went over before, but we've never heard your thoughts on Dungeon Finder, Duranasaur.
Yeah, I guess because I've never used it in Wrath, so I assume what it is that you queue up for a dungeon and it just puts you in a group, like similar like a battleground, where it's just like you just say what spec you are, you hit the like find dungeon button, and then it just like puts you in a group with the people.
Yeah, it's basically you can, and if you have two different specs, like a warrior, I would be able, if I had a DPS spec and a tank spec, I would be able to queue as both DPS or tank. It would obviously queue me into tank first, but like I could queue as either of them because I have the two specs.
Gotcha.
And yeah, so basically it's It's just you choose, and it puts 1 tank, 1 heal, 3 DPS right into your group. It warps you right there.
Oh.
Yeah, it warps you into the dungeon, and you can't really zone out.
Oh, weird. Um, I mean, I'm hesitant for anything that like makes the world feel smaller because I feel like that's one of the downsides of TBC is that the world just feels small and
Oh, yeah.
insignificant, like
This
at
definitely
least
does
compared to
that.
vanilla.
There's no one summoning outside once Dungeon Finder comes out. You just warp
Yeah.
straight into the inside start of the dungeon.
Yeah. I think that that's the idea of Dungeon Finder, like even a few years ago, maybe even like less than a year ago, I don't know. I would have been like way against it. But now that I've been playing on Faralina and experiencing like it's basically a mega server and you can kind of find any dungeon at any time with random people using the like looking for group board, like the add-on that just like it pulls messages from like all the chat channels and it just like
It's what I use
converts
too.
them.
I don't think it's
Yeah.
possible on the mega servers without using that.
Yeah.
LFG bulletin board guys, make sure to get it if you're on a
Yeah.
big server.
Add-on of the week. Not really. But I think that the system that I do now, right, is just like wait until I see something on that bulletin board and then whisper somebody and then just like jump into a group with or a dungeon with random people anyway. So if you remove the step where I actually have to like all I'm doing is whispering someone saying like I'm a DPS and then they invite me and then I travel to the dungeon, like that's what's different, it sounds like, from what I'm doing
Yeah.
now to what looking for group is.
Well,
And I don't think that I'm like socializing more. And I know that that's like a big critique of Dungeon Finder, right? Is that like, oh, it removes
yes,
the social
definitely.
aspect of WoW, but it's like I'm sending like 2 or 3 words
Definitely.
to
Well,
somebody right now.
so like uh when it was coming out, everyone, and I mean everyone, there was not one person that I ever met that wasn't like, dude, this is going to be the next best thing from sliced bread. Like, we thought it was going to be the best. It was the aftermath things that we realized. And that's why I push, because immediately on launch, it was cross realm.
Hmm.
And that's what I push for as a problem, because I don't want it to be cross realm, even if I get in a game, if I get into a dungeon faster, because if I have to wait a 10 or 15 minute queue, that's fine. There's tons of dailies and different things to do while I'm in that queue. When it went cross realm, basically they did make changes later to where you couldn't do the shenanigans that we would do, but we would 3 queue stuff, right? And if one of the people sucked, it only took 3 votes to vote him out and get a new
Oh,
person in. So we didn't care about this. Like, we're not going to spend time to teach him about the fight or anything. Like, if they sucked, we're just going to boot them immediately and move on to the next. And I don't know that I would still do that to this day because I'm a nicer person than I was when I was younger. But and I'm not as good as I was when I was younger too. I'll also say that, but it's just like it leads to more toxic behavior and no consequence if you're not on the same
yeah.
server. You're never going to see that person again. It's no big deal. So
Yeah.
that's why I really want the whole queue on server first, but it is a really good tool. Like there's no mistake in that. You're going to get to do more dungeons because of it, and that's just a fact. And people that would normally not take the time, like you and I, to get an add-on to parse out a group,
Yeah.
they're going to get into a group, and so it
Yeah.
is a good thing overall. I just want some little tweaks to it. That's all.
I think, yeah, I love what you're saying. Just like try to default to people on your own server. And maybe after like 5 minutes or something, then it opens it up to
Yep, and
cross
on
realm.
the small servers, you can flip a switch for the poor people, that are on a server that has no alliance, or something. But the same time, them getting to meet people on their server could be a really good thing for them too, you know, like, so.
Yeah.
I mean, but
True.
it brings up a good point. Like we have mega servers now, right? Where we didn't in, you know, original vanilla,
yeah.
right? You weren't on a server with 10,000 people. And now you are. Like how much really, if you're on a server where you have 6 layers, like how much really is it impacting you whether you go
Yeah.
cross server or same server? And
Exactly.
you know, at this point we're so far past that. I feel like
Yeah, it feels strange. Like TBC feels strange to me right now because I think the things that we talk about, the lack of social aspect, the lack of accountability, like I feel like those things are already there if you're on a mega server.
yeah, they
So
are. And there wasn't any, like I don't remember being on a server, and I could have just gotten lucky, but I don't remember there being servers that were 100% alliance and servers that were 100% horde. Like,
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think that was a thing back in the day.
it was like 70-30 on a lot of them, and they were actively trying to keep the servers healthy, and they had to at that point. There was no layering technology, like, and servers were run on an actual server, whereas now servers are run on a virtual server that's part of a huge hive of servers that you could literally go into that server and say, okay, I'm going to add this RAM, I'm going to add these processors. You can on the fly make that server bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you couldn't do that back in the day. So they literally had to have queues. They had to move people off. And now with the way tech has gone, they could be lazy. It's just something I know a lot about because I was a systems engineer that worked with virtual servers, and you could just make it as big as you want.
I think where we lost the core of original, right? Was not because of X, Y, or Z. I think it was because we have these servers that now house 10 times the amount of people that they housed before. So there isn't that sense of community anymore. You look in general and in, you know, trade chat, if you dare, on one of these mega servers, and you know, yes, it might be the same people, but nobody's having meaningful conversations in there, right? Like it's just.
And I could turn it back on you too. So yes, there's no sense of community on Benediction with, you know, 30,000 raiders, but I get tells daily from Warcraft Reloaded listeners that say, hey, welcome to the server. So there is community there. And I'll give you...
Sure, because they can send you a tell on, on the same server, but not on a different one.
Let me turn it on why it could be important to have it just server first before cross server. The reason cross server came in initially is because servers were smaller. So your queues would be a lot longer. Now, if you're on Benediction as Alliance, your queue would be instant. Boom.
Right. So why don't they say, like, it makes more sense in my mind to say, if you have 10,000 plus people, you don't get cross server. If you have 5,000, you can do cross server with another 5,000 people, whether that's 2 other servers, 6 other servers, 1 other server, right? But you have this like average of 10,000 hours of cross server. And if your one server fits that bill, you don't go cross server. Like,
yeah, I mean, they could just like, they could set, that's what I said earlier, is like on the servers,
I just don't know if it matters, honestly. That's what I'm saying, is like, if there's a bunch of people on Benediction wanting to play, then why does it matter if we get somebody from another?
I think I'm in the minority with my thinking that you can find good guildies and stuff like that in random dungeons. So I definitely think I'm in the minority in this thought. I think the majority of people do connect via Discords and things of other nature. I'm just a boomer living in the past, baby.
Yeah. I wonder too, because you brought up like there's other ways for people to meet nowadays, like when like there wasn't anything like Discord servers. Like there wasn't a Discord server for every original WoW server. There was like TeamSpeak, Ventrilo, Mumble, and stuff. So it's like if I was back in the day, if I was looking to join a guild, like I had to find that in game.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if I'm looking to join a guild, I'm not going to go in game. Like I'm going to look at
And I
server
probably
discords
wouldn't
and-
either.
Yeah. So
I did happen to find Varg though in game, accidentally.
Oh.
But that's a stroke of luck, you know. Lightning doesn't strike twice, right? The same spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, you know, all the really, you know, competitive guilds have, you know, application process and, you know, websites now and all of that stuff. And that's fine. Like it's a different beast now, right? Like you're looking for different things. People are, you know, promoting it in different ways. And I think it does, you may not have the same sense of community on your server, but you have the same sense of community within your guild or within your Discord server or something like that, right? Like,
yeah.
I think
different
you guys,
isn't always bad.
I think you guys are probably right, but I'm going to be that old crotchety, get off my lawn guy. And
I'm okay
stick
with
to it.
As a vanilla Andy, like I'm okay. Like, yeah, let's keep things the old way.
All right. So next, I don't know if Mel's talked about this. I know me and Yip have talked about it. It might have been when Mel was gone, but we believe that with, you know, Blood Elves and Draenei coming in pre-patch for TBC, we also think, and we predicted that before I think anybody else, but I'm not positive about that, but it was early. We think Death Knights are going to come in pre-patch also, whereas they only came with the box price of Wrath initially. But
so wait,
Oh,
remind
interesting.
me, because I did level. You couldn't boost like Alliance Shaman or Alliance or Horde
you couldn't
Paladins, but
boost Draenei
could
or
you?
Blood Elves.
Okay.
It didn't matter if they were Paladin or any other class, just Draenei and Blood Elves you could not boost.
You couldn't boost, but
But
you could start at
could
level
create
1.
a character and pre-patch.
Yeah.
Yeah. The difference
had-
here. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was gonna say, our main prop paladin to this day in TBC, he created his paladin like day 1 of pre-patch, and he got it to 60 and actually got like enough like reputation and everything to like run AQ40 and Nax and actually get like epic gear before TBC came out so that he could like help with dungeon grinding and stuff.
Right, because you're a dirty horde. I remember now.
Yep, dirty horde. That's
okay. No, yeah, but I don't think that should happen. Right? Like I don't know that I agree with that they should be able to catch up and still be in a decent spot. I'm sure he did a ton of work to like get it to that point.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
even more here, Mel. Do you remember how Death Knights were put into the game? Do you remember what happened when you created a Death Knight?
I did not create a Death Knight, so no, I do not remember what happened.
So the difference here is the Death Knight was the first and last, quote unquote, from Blizzard hero class. You had to have a level 70 character, and then you were allowed to make a Death Knight. All Death Knights started at level 55. There was no way to start a level 1
Chad
Death
is saying
Knight.
that you had to have a level 55 character to make
maybe I'm
a
wrong.
Death Knight.
Okay, so maybe you had to have I thought it was max level, but I could be wrong there. But either way, every DK starts at level 55. Your starting area is set around that. It's actually really cool. Like even if you don't play DK,
Wait, the DK starts at 55?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so you don't even need to boost.
No. But the whole point is that they brought in the Blood Elves and Draenei and said you couldn't boost and you had to work from level 1. But a DK is going to catch up a lot quicker because they're starting at level 55. So I was just pointing out that's a difference that might play into their decision on when to implement DKs pre-patch or launch.
I think it depends on how long the pre-patch is. Like, why do we need a super long pre-patch? Like, couldn't we have a pre-patch that's 1 or 2
Well,
weeks?
I
And
want a long one
that's
with
what
new
the TBC
talents and
Oh man, the
everything.
TBC pre-patch was so much shorter than what we thought it was going to be.
Well, and
yeah,
I wanted a month. I
Mhm.
do want DKs to come in with gear. I think it's important and neat for World First. I would like a long time to work one up to level 70 just so I understand them more. I'm not going to play one, but I'd love that chance to work it up, and I'm not going to do that if it's 2 weeks. You know what I mean? I'd love to do tier 6 rating with DKs just to see. I wanted to do that in Nax, but didn't get the opportunity because we needed 2 weeks off before we jumped to TBC. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. All I've heard about DKs is that they are absolutely broken. And depending on like which version we get,
I'm sure we're going to get the latest version. They were
Yeah.
broken as hell in the beginning. Literally, there were 5-man DK groups going through all the dungeons in TBC. I mean, it was uncanny. Like, it was just silly.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm right there with you. I thought that the TBC pre-patch should have been a month. Because I had a lot of fun doing vanilla content with like TBC talents at level 60.
TBC
Like
talents were so cool. And then arena skirmishes and
there were so many cool things that I think would have kept people busy and happy for a full month. And then it was just like 2 weeks and it felt way too fast. And I think we missed out on like a very interesting version of the game.
Yep.
And so I kind of hope that we get a full month of pre-patch before Wrath. And I think that putting DKs in would be fine.
And it's just good for the people that want to break. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah. True.
yeah. I mean, I guess it does change the game, right? Like you add DKs in and you have a month, and it does kind of change the game for you at that point where you're kind of annoyed with farming the same content over and over again.
Well, in Mel, it adds the new level 80 talents too, like new moves completely, like max level builds you'll never see, because this is where you're level 70 with level 80 talents. So there's a lot of neat things to be done, for speed runs to be done at the end, like 4 weeks of like the top guilds speed running and having no time to test this. You know what I mean? Like, it was some fun stuff.
So much fun. That like the TBC pre-patch, even though we only got like 2 weeks, like it was super fun theory crafting and testing out these TBC talent builds at level 60 and like going into Nax and just being like, I wonder how this works. And like sometimes it worked really well and sometimes it was pretty bad.
Well, and I do. Everybody should go through, like, basically they made an unbelievably fun starting zone for the DKs. I mean, it was cinematic. It instances you in all different spots. You get to interact with the Lich King a ton. It's really neat. Like, single player type of deal, but it's really neat. All right. So other things that might pop up, because they popped up late in the Lich King, is possible faction and race change. How do you guys feel about this? Because I'm a little upset that I've been human this entire time and I'm finally getting every last man standing or whatever, and now all these dirty horde are going to come and be a human. I don't know how I feel about this, but how do you guys feel?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there will be people who take advantage of it, but I don't know how many people are okay with just like swapping factions, like especially
if it's the hardest of hardcore PvPers, basically. Small population.
Yeah, and like I mean, to be fair, there were like Salad Bakers is an example of they were Alliance all of vanilla, and then going into TBC they swapped to Horde because they were like Horde's just going to be better. But again, outliers. So I don't think it's a huge deal.
I think, if anything, it could help balance some very small portion of the faction imbalance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably not,
I don't know
right?
there's
But it's
anything
not
that can
gonna
fix it now with
correct.
like
But
they
what do you
dropped the
think the
ball
worst
on
that's gonna
this.
happen? What do you think the worst that's gonna happen? Everybody goes horde, right? Like, I mean, I think most people have found their communities and enjoy their communities, and unless their whole community switches, which is a very small percentage of the population that is that dedicated to switch races and factions.
Yeah.
Um,
Because
I
it's
think
still going to
race
cost
change
money
is
too.
more, yeah, I think race change is more annoying, I guess, because it doesn't do much, but I don't really care. Whatever. If you want to be a night elf instead of a human now, go for it. But I don't want anybody like this would have really ticked me off if it was in regular classic because they would have wanted me to become a dwarf priest. And I don't want to be a dwarf priest. Dwarf priests are
The best. Yeah.
visually unappealing.
See, and when you quit and gave me your account back in Cataclysm, I was really thankful that I could change from a blood elf female to a male goblin. I mean, I was really thankful and it was a good ass time. So I don't know how I feel about this either, really. Like, I just like to make the joke that I've been human this whole time. This is my day. I want you to work a new character up if you want every man for himself.
I just feel like most
But I'm
people
kinda
would rather
joking.
work another character up unless
Yeah.
for
It's,
some reason there
I
was
think it depends
motivation to
on,
take that. Yeah.
it probably depends on how much it costs. Because like the guild that I'm in has like we server transferred now twice as a guild, and it's like
Oh, wow,
I
twice.
can't
We did it
imagine.
once.
Yeah, it's such an investment. Like
Mhm.
when you
Thousands
think
of
about
dollars.
yeah. So like I don't see like very many guilds swapping faction completely, and I don't know, the whole race change thing I feel like would be just random one-offs. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm not aside from my joking memes, I'm not really that concerned about it, but, yeah.
I'm gonna switch to a gnome if I can.
Oh, possible 5. Yeah, we'll skip over this part. Um, so we will likely be on patch 3.3.5 for Wrath Classic, which means Death Knights tuned to what they were at the end, which is probably the most fair, like, because it was pretty bad early on. Rogues might have axes trained earlier. What's that mean? It's quite different for
because rogues can't use axes.
Oh, rogues get axes? Oh, huh.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Racial ability changes. Will of the Forsaken shares a cooldown with PvP trinket. Yeah,
Shadow Melt drops
that was a
combat
big
when
one.
used. What?
Yeah, that's crazy. I thought you couldn't use
Yeah.
Shadow Meld in combat.
You can't, but it's something that they changed later, and it is OP. And people
That's crazy.
like there's a lot of people sleeping on that. Blood Fury is no longer on the global cooldown, so you
That's
can.
pretty strong.
You guys, can we just talk about hardcore when Shadow Meld drops combat? Like, come on.
It's literally a racial vanish.
Yeah.
Like it's. I had
Like, my
forgotten
priest
about
would have
that
been even so much
completely.
more overpowered.
Another one, ground mounts.
What is Will of the Forsaken, though? Can you guys remind me of this again?
Get you out of fear and what else? Fear.
Holly?
It's not all CC, but it's a lot of them.
I think it's Fear and Polly.
Only undead have it,
Yeah.
Also, Mel.
Oh.
I'm trying to think. It doesn't get you out of a stun.
Somebody said Fear Charm and MC in
Fear Charm
chat.
MC. Oh, so maybe not Polly. So Fear Charm MC. Okay. It's very strong.
Okay. Then I think it should share a cooldown with PvP trinket.
Ground mounts can swim in water. That was added in patch 3.1.
Dude, how much would you have loved that when you're like jumping over a pond and you just miss the pond like land part where you start swimming and then you have to remount. Like, that is the most annoying thing to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, I mean, in certain places like Ungoro, there's kind of a skill factor to it where you're not going to get dismounted if you do it the right time. So it's kind of cool, but overall, yeah, I get it. It's pretty annoying. But this one might blow your mind, Duranasaur. Experience earned in Battlegrounds, added in patch 3.2.
What exactly does that mean?
It means you can literally work up in BGs. It's not fast, but if
is
you
it like
just want a BG, you could go to max level doing it.
so? Like, do you get XP when you like get HKs? Is that what it is?
Oh, you know what? I don't remember. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just like killing a mob and then you get experience at the end of it too. They actually, for twinks,
I was gonna say,
they actually had to add in a thing where you could go to a NPC and pay money, like I think it was like 10 gold, to turn off BG EXP so that you wouldn't go past your twink level. Because I had a level 29 Pally twink in Wrath.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
And then faction restrictions from realms removed. Now, I don't know what that means. Faction restrictions.
It means that at one point they actually cared about faction balance, maybe.
Wow. Jesus.
They tried. They gave up years and years and years ago, guys.
So they already had this problem solved? Oh my God.
Well, apparently it didn't solve it because they removed it in patch 3.2. So maybe all the things that we were asking for didn't work.
God. Oh my God. All right. Well,
That's pretty funny.
Is there any of these you want to hit on? I mean,
I think we hit on the ones
we did.
I wanted to.
I mean, rogues using axes is just crazy to me. That might be the one that's the weirdest.
That just doesn't seem like to fit with the lore, like, character of a rogue. Like, who's sneaking up on somebody and grabbing a axe and hacking them down? You know what I mean? Like, come on.
A Native American.
Oh.
I mean, I guess
a very
if they were
true
like
answer.
Smaller axes,
they were kind of ninjas.
Yeah.
I'm
they're
sitting here
one-handed
thinking
axes.
of like a really big axe, that they're like
You're
grabbing
thinking
with
of
both hands.
Yeah, but rogues don't use two-handers, so
it's a one-handed axe.
You're saying you got like little tiny axes?
You got two
little hatchets.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
Does that sound rogue-like to you?
Sure. It's better than the
It's
visualization I was thinking about before, where I was like, nobody's gonna see you coming.
Yeah, it's hard to be sneaky with a big two-handed weapon.
I feel like there should be a debuff if you have a big axe and it's like your footsteps are louder and your stealth is not as effective.
So, I am going to give a little bit of shade at the writer of this article. Because this is everything we know about Wrath in Lich King Classic. But we know so much more. I mean, what about mounts at level 20? Epic mounts at level 40? Flying at level 60? That's not in here.
No.
You think anybody's complaining about mounts at level 20? Nope.
Well, that was like, because I haven't leveled a character in TBC, but you can get your mount at 30, right?
Yep. Yep, mount at 30.
Yeah, so I assume any sort of mount level restrictions are probably what they were. Yeah, they're going to make those. Like, that's going to be just a part of it.
Yeah, and I don't remember what patch in Wrath it came in. I think it was late that it came mount at 20, epic at 40, flying at 60, but it did come. Like, and they don't talk about heirlooms here, which are the pieces of gear that you can buy with, like, basically what we have badges right now. You buy heirloom gear and you can send it to any character on your account and they level with you. They also give EXP bonuses while leveling, and they're basically BIS gear that you go through. In retail, they have every piece like you can get every piece heirloom now, which I don't think is a good thing. But like these, I think are kind of neat because it's weapon, offhands, librams, and whatever you use on your librams or what other classes use. I forget the names of them, but all those different like throwing whatever. Then shoulders, chest, ring, something else. But like basically it just levels with you. Great
Yeah.
for twinks too.
So Chad is bringing up that some of those quality of life changes may have come in the last phase of Wrath of the Lich King.
Like
Right.
lots of them do. And so
And do
we're
you
curious.
think that they're going to come at the beginning?
We don't know.
Because they did hold off in TBC in bringing certain things, right? Like we didn't get guild banks right away in TBC.
Nope.
Yeah,
Very
but
true.
Which was stupid.
Didn't we get guild banks at the beginning of original TBC, or am I wrong on that?
No, they were later, I think.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if the late guild bank edition in classic TBC was like intentional, or if it was because they just didn't have them.
They just didn't have
out.
it built. I agree with
I don't
you.
think,
I think it's
I think they would have put them in if they had them ready. I think with some of the changes they made, they were just like, no, it's fine.
To your point, then they might not have all this stuff ready by the time Wrath comes out.
They might.
So who knows when we'll get it?
Like really, honestly, like LFG and all that shit, I'm cool with it coming later. If you don't have dual spec day one, riot. I've been waiting this long. God. Do not fail me, Blizzard. John Blizzard needs to make sure this happens because I cannot handle that.
Oh my God.
That's where I'm at there. But fair. There's even more. There's so much more that we're not hitting on. Like it's impossible. We've done a bunch of these, like looking forward to Wrath, and I do appreciate Wowhead's article, and like there were things that I did that we haven't covered there, like rogues with axes, yada yada yada. Like I'm a little upset with the title of it. It's not everything. That's where I was at.
There's more to come. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Change the title to the first of many things that we know about Wrath Classic.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. It's going to be fun, and I'm sure we'll have many more talks just like this with other people. And you guys are just going to have to tune in every week to find out what those are. All right, guys. Any closing comments about Wrath? Anything you're specifically looking forward to, Duranasaur?
The one thing that I have heard specifically from a lot of hardcore people is that the leveling in Northrend is supposed to be some of like the best leveling that Blizzard has ever created. Like the zones, the aesthetic, the quests, the music, everything is supposed to be like top tier World of Warcraft leveling. So that is something that I am excited to try out for sure.
It is definitely cool. Whereas Outland, a lot of people love it, but it's like too sci-fi for me. Like Wrath brings it back home, and it brings it back home well. And there is instanced quests, like where you go into a quest and it actually instances you in your own little area right there, and you get to interact with the Lich King or different like big people, and it's really cool. Like really cool. Yeah, like, but you're interacting. Like, it's not just a straight up cutscene like you would see in Star Wars: The Old Republic, but like you're there, can move around. It's really
I like
cool.
how I went through this content and Duranasaur did not, and we both are having the same reaction to what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
I mean, I'm just like that. Like doing Classic WoW was basically like playing a whole entirely new game to me. It's just been a long time. So I can't be expected. My mind is only so big. Things have to like, phase in and out.
That's fair.
Back somewhere.
All right. Well, all right, guys. That's going to lead us into the add-on of the week. So this week's add-on of the week is brought to you from the maker of a tune. He brings you a new add-on. I can't say this word. Dallies. There we go. Dallies. It is an add-on that tracks your dailies, tracks money earned, tracks if you've done it on multiple characters. It's great. You have multiple characters. He's still working on it. I've only been using it for a few days now and have already seen benefits. I'm sure it's going to get better and better as his other add-on did, because his other add-on was actually necessary for TBC with all the stupid stuff you had to do to a tune. So definitely check it out. And we'll have that in the notes. All right, guys, do not forget to follow us on Twitter at WC Reloaded. You can follow the Mash Those Buttons Network at the Mash Network. If you want to send us something a little bit longer or tell me how to get in as a carry in GDKPs, send that to WCRpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to join the Mash Discord, you can do so by going to mash.gg/discord. How can you help the podcast? You can help the podcast the most by telling your guildies, your friends about it. You can go above and beyond and give us a review on either iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or warcraftradio.com/directory. You can also leave 5-star reviews or 5-star stars on Spotify. So unfortunately, you still can't leave reviews, but you can leave us stars there, so that would help. And then, Mel, do you want to tell them about the Patreon?
Nope, I don't have it pulled up, but I will tell them in a few minutes. I have to find it. I didn't save it.
That's okay. I'll do it.
You have it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Here. I can't link it to you, though. It's a document. All right, here. I'm just going to do it.
Go for it.
You can go to mtb.gg/support to see all the ways you can support us via the Patreon or whatever else. All right, guys. That's it. Mel, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at MelOverwatch. Kind of. You can find me in game on Mel Arena. Say hi to me instead of Bob. It's much cooler than Bob. And I'm healer.
True.
Which just inevitably makes me cooler.
And Duranasaur, where can we find you?
Most often you can find me at twitch.tv/Duranasaur, DURANSAUR, or you can find me on Twitter at Duranasaur24.
Awesome. And you can find me on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. You can find me on Twitch streaming, daily for a few hours. Twitch.tv/BlazinBob. All right, guys. Well, our short episode is over. I mean, we didn't have news to talk about, so I don't know how we go this long, but we did.
That's just what happens whenever I'm on.
Yeah, we like good company, I just didn't want to let Duranasaur go, so I had to keep him talking.
Yep.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.